Welcome to part 7 of What If Kushina Survived on the Night of the Nine Tails Attack Naruto x Hinata x Yugito. Please make sure to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. Chapter 61. The Tsuchikage stood on a roof in the western end of his village and was overlooking the destruction. The sight reminded him of many from the Third Great Ninja War. Several blocks had simply been flattened. The buildings that had stood there were reduced to rubble. And through the streets there were still bodies lying where they had fallen. The battle, for that was what it had been over for about an hour. Many of the dead had been recovered and the wounded had either been treated on the spot or evacuated to the hospital. Near the center of the battle zone the bodies had been collected and put into neat rows and covered in white blankets. All the dead and wounded were his people. The enemy had done all of this and then simply escaped. He had seen such one-sided defeats before. Back in the Third Great War when they had fought him. The Tsuchikage felt a familiar presence approach him. "Report," the Tsuchikage ordered coldly. Motosuwa replied calmly. "Estimates are about 150 dead, with the number likely to rise. We have about twice that number wounded. Nearly all casualties were from the ranks of the Anbu. And the traitor, it was Nudoru. Jiraiya and his other companions were able to effect his escape prior to the fight erupting." The Tsuchikage turned and looked at him angrily. "Fight? This was no fight." He waved at the scene below. "This was a full-scale battle within our very walls. And you say the Yellow Flash's son did this?" Motosuwa nodded. "That is what he claimed, and given the chakra he possessed there seems no room for doubt." He stared at the small man. "We had the son of the Yellow Flash here within our very midst and did not even know it. I would call that a rather severe failure of our intelligence department. Wouldn't you agree?" Motosuwa nodded and bowed. "I admit it was a failure and accept the responsibility." The Tsuchikage tightened his fists angrily. "We had it in our power to end the Namikaze line once and for all with a cup of poison. Instead we have this. Tell me, why did the Namikaze attack us if the traitor had already been freed? Was this some type of distraction or was it a deliberate act of war?" "Neither. I believe this was done to liberate a prisoner." Tsuchikage looked at him in surprise. "What prisoner?" "An old war prisoner who had been confined to the quarries, one Uzumaki Shinzo." "An Uzumaki? Why in Kami's name would the son of the Yondaime go through so much trouble for a dead clan from Whirlpool?" Motosuwa swallowed before answering. "It appears that his mother, Namikaze Kushina, may have been the prisoner's sister." The Tsuchikage stared at him with cold unbelieving eyes. "His mother is an Uzumaki. And how did that little piece of information slip past you?" Motosuwa replied in a small voice. "Her maiden name was not recorded in any public documents in Konoha. It is well known that she wears a Whirlpool Hitai ite, but her clan was not known to us. I only realized the connection due to certain statements made by the prisoner and a visitor he had from Jiraiya's party. If you had realized this a bit sooner it might have helped. For the first time you disappoint me." Motosuwa could only nod. "I humbly apologize to you, Tsuchikage-sama." The Tsuchikage's hand turned to diamond. In a flash he struck and tore out his spy master's throat. Motosuwa grabbed the bloody gash and collapsed sputtering to the rooftop. "Apology accepted." With a kick he sent the still gasping body off the roof and down to the alley below. "It's a shame, but such a failure cannot be forgiven." With a motion of his hand another man appeared to the Tsuchikage's right. He was in an Anbu mask and bowing. "You have just been promoted to Kuya, congratulations." "Thank you, Tsuchikage-sama. I shall do my best to not disappoint you." The Tsuchikage nodded. "That would be wise. Now, how many Anbu remain effective?" "A little over 200. Takuya replied immediately. "Do you wish us to mount a pursuit after the Namikaze?" The Tsuchikage looked at him with disappointment. "Of course not. After this display I would not pursue him with anything less than an army." Takuya nodded and tried to hide his relief. "Is it your will to declare war on the Leaf Village for this action?" "Certainly it is more than reason enough to begin a war." "No." The Tsuchikage shook his head violently. "I have no intention of starting a war against a village that has him on its side." Takuya phrased his next question carefully. "Then you will ignore what happened here tonight?" The Tsuchikage said sharply. "I never said that. There are ways to harm an opponent short of open war." He turned around. "Here are my orders. Announce that as of now we are breaking diplomatic relations with the Leaf Village and declaring an embargo. All Fire Country merchants in Iowa must depart within 24 hours. None of our merchants are permitted to travel to Konoha or purchase their goods. Takuya nodded gravely. Hi Tsuchikage-sama. That certainly sounded serious, but in fact the two villages barely traded with one another. A boycott would do little to the economy of either village. Breaking off relations might make the Leaf Nins a bit worried though. It did have an ominous ring to it. Also I want bounties placed. 1 million for Nudoru, 5 million for Jiraiya, and 15 million for Namikaze Naruto. You mean to place a bounty on one of the Sannin? Takuya said in surprise. That's right, the Tsuchikage replied. Had he merely helped the traitor escape we'd have ignored it. But the Namikaze was clearly under his direction and so we will place a bounty on him. We will also issue kill on-site orders for him and Nudoru should they ever be spotted in Earth Country again. And what of the Namikaze? The Tsuchikage let out a resigned sigh. Issue a retreat on-site order. Also change his ranking in the bingo book from A to S rank. Hi Tsuchikage-sama. Neither of them mentioned the importance of that decree. In the whole history of Iowa only one enemy had ever been given a retreat on-site order. That Namikaze Naruto had earned one would send a clear message to every Iowa nin that he was as dangerous as his father had been. There is one more thing concerning the Namikaze. Yes Tsuchikage-sama, let us see if we can find some allies to help us deal with him. The Tsuchikage smiled. He intended to put an end to the Namikaze line one way or another. XXXXXXXXXX. 3 days later, the four of them were waiting by a small cafe on the outskirts of Atsugi. There was only one road into the village and they had a perfect view of it. The four of them had all hanged to look like local fishermen. We should get out of here. Nudoru whined. Shut up. All three answered. I'm sure we've shaken pursuit and I've hired a boat with enough cash to guarantee we leave whenever we want and go anywhere no questions asked. Jiraiya added in an annoyed voice. Now relax, I've told you we'll go just as soon as the kid shows up. Who are you kidding? There's no way he could have made it out of the village. Nudoru insisted. Shut your mouth or I'll shut it for you. Seishu snapped. Naruto definitely got out and he will definitely get here. Don't try and get angry at me. Just because you sacrificed one of your own. Losses are inevitable and on high-risk missions they have to be expected. Nudoru trailed off as he felt killer intent from all three of them. Especially from Seishu who was gripping his sword. I'm not in the mood to listen to any more complaints from you. Jiraiya stated harshly. I need to get you back to Konoha alive. Gagged or unconscious will do fine. Nudoru wasn't ready to give up yet. Wasn't the whole reason you came to Iowa to get me safely out? Well, I won't be safe until I'm in Konoha. So why are we delaying? We should accomplish the mission, not sit here waiting for someone who isn't coming. You don't know Naruto. Jiraiya said. Yamato and Seishu nodded. Maybe not, but I know my people. That jail was obviously a trap and there's no way they'd have let someone get away. Jiraiya looked over at him. Oh yeah, well I happen to know that there's no way that all the rock nins could ever stop Naruto. That kid is way too stubborn to let anything stop him until he's the Hokage. Just how long do you plan to wait? Nudoru asked. Jiraiya looked away from him and back towards the road. We'll wait here until sunset. If he hasn't arrived by then I'll put you in Yamato's care and he'll get you to the rendezvous point where you'll meet your Anbu escort. What about you? Seishu and I will stay here and start looking for him. Nudoru shook his head. You're an idiot. Jiraiya shrugged. You sure wouldn't be the first one to ever think so. But there's no chance in hell I'll give up on the kid. With that Nudoru simply sat back to wait for sunset. XXXXXXXXXX. About an hour and a half later they saw a single figure running up the road. It was obvious from his speed that he had to be ninja. Jiraiya, Seishu, and Yamato immediately got to their feet. It's Naruto. Seishu said happily. It might be a hunter nin. Nudoru said and was ignored. He quickly came close enough for them to see a young teen with dark hair and a black outfit. He spotted them and quickly came over to them. He dropped from a dead run and came to a halt. He'd been running non-stop from Iowa just as they had. They could smell the sweat and body odor. He doubled over and put his hands on his knees. Hey, did I keep you waiting long? The voice was Naruto's. All three men swiftly embraced him and asked him if he was all right between congratulations and welcomes. Naruto had one of his huge smiles as he looked to Seishu. I got him out. I put him in a scroll and sent him to my mom. Seishu nodded and placed a firm hand on his shoulder. I knew you'd do it. I am so proud of you, Naruto, and I know your mom will be just as proud. I'm sure she's very happy to be with her brother again. He's my mom's brother. Seishu nodded. So that means he's my uncle. He certainly is. Seishu said proudly. Are you all right, Naruto? Jiraiya asked. Yeah, I'm fine. I am sort of hungry and tired though. Jiraiya nodded. They had been going all out since leaving Iwa. They had all sustained themselves on soldier pills and some water. Jiraiya's group had gotten the chance to eat and rest a bit. They knew just how tired and hungry Naruto had to be. That's not a problem, kid. You can eat before we get on the boat, and as soon as we're at sea you can sleep all you want. So you're definitely okay, right? No wounds or anything. Naruto smiled. I'm fine. Good. Jiraiya immediately hit him on the top of his head, hard. Ow. What was that for? Naruto began to rub the top of his head. Both he and Seishu sent the man a surly look. That was for pulling such an idiotic boneheaded stunt, you world-class baka. Jiraiya shouted at him. Don't you ever pull something like that behind my back again. Oh, that's a good one. Naruto shouted right back. This from the man who deliberately went behind the Hokage's back. Hey, I had my reasons. Jiraiya growled. So did I. Naruto growled right back. You did, Naruto. Seishu stood beside him and helped him glare at Jiraiya. I am damn proud to call you my grand-nephew, and I have never known a better ninja or person. Naruto sent him a wide smile. Thanks, grand uncle. Don't encourage him to take stupid risks. Jiraiya stated. Look who's talking. Seishu shot back. I hate to interrupt. Yamato spoke up. But how about we get Naruto some food and then get on the boat? Jiraiya grunted. Fine, but we'll be talking about this more later. Fine. Feeling starved, Naruto headed towards the cafe and his first meal in 3 days. Yamato looked to Jiraiya. Now that he's back, I'll be sending the Hokage a full report on the mission. Jiraiya sighed. I know. I just hope she decides to let me live. A few hours later they were out on the ocean, well out of sight of land. Naruto was curled up in a tiny bunk below the deck. Jiraiya sat down in a rickety chair by the edge of the bunk. He calmly felt the ship rock back and forth. They had dispelled their henges as soon as they were out to sea. Jiraiya reached out and affectionately rubbed the top of Naruto's blonde hair. You know, kid, he whispered. I'll probably never tell you this while you're awake. But I'm very proud of what you did. Risking your life without a second thought for someone you haven't even met. That's something your father would have done. Kid, in all the ways that really matter you are already every bit as great as Minato was. And I know that when you're the Hokage you will be the greatest of them. He chuckled softly. But you had better be sure to give me some of the credit. Naruto opened a single eye and grinned. It's a deal, pervy granddad. Jiraiya stared at him for a moment. He then began to wiggle his fingers about his face. It's a dream, it's all a dream, oohh. Laughing a bit he closed his eye. Nice try, but I heard you say it and you don't get to take it back. XXXXXXXXXX. 1 week later. Tsunade grinned as Kushina and her brother entered her office. She thought he looked much better than he had. He'd certainly gained some weight. Kushina had called her immediately to check his health. It was stunning to actually get to meet her brother Urusei after she'd heard so many stories about him. She'd found him in good health save for his malnutrition. She'd given Kushina a list of foods to help him return to health and had then listened to his story of being rescued by Seishu and a mystery ninja who claimed to be family. It was obvious who the mystery ninja was. As they had talked, they had made some plans for the immediate future. Kushina and her brother both bowed to her. Hokage-sama, thank you so much for granting the request of my brother Uzumaki Shinzo to re-establish the Uzumaki clan here in Konoha. Tsunade smiled. Shinzo. I thought his name was Urusei. She couldn't resist teasing her friend just a little. Kushina looked embarrassed while her brother looked mildly amused. So you referred to me by my nickname, huh? He asked her in slightly mocking tones. Hey, everyone called you that, even Uncle Seishu. The only people who never used it were Mom and Dad. Kushina said defensively. He grinned. That's all right, Kuki, I forgive you. He had a too innocent expression on his face. Kuki. Tsunade smiled. Kushina looked at her older brother with real annoyance. You know I hate that name. Her chuckled. Fine, you stop calling me, shut up, and I'll stop calling you Kuki. Fine, she agreed. Well then, Tsunade spoke in an amused tone. Why don't we get back to the matter at hand? Namely the re-establishing of the Uzumaki clan. Now as you know, my grandfather the Shodai established the laws pertaining to adding clans to this village. Any new clan must meet one of two conditions. They must either possess a unique Kekkei Genkei or else they must practice a special fighting style. It was always said that the Uzumaki clan's skill with the blade was unmatched, which qualifies under the second condition. Therefore I am happy to grant your petition and extend to you Uzumaki Shinzo and to your uncle Uzumaki Seishu the legal status of clan. Tsunade chuckled at what she would cover next. Now the matter of finances and the acquiring of a clan estate I will leave for later. What I wish to discuss currently is another law my grandfather established that is relevant to your circumstance, the law of clan restoration. Now normally in Konoha we recognize monogamous marriages. A man can only have one wife at any time. Once married he cannot take another wife save the first wife dies or is divorced. However, in special cases where a clan is in danger of becoming extinct, certain allowances are made to protect the clan's future and ensure its special ability is not lost. As you and your uncle are the only recognized members of your clan, you will be permitted, under the law of clan restoration, to take up to 3 wives to help you restore the numbers of your clan. Shinzo slowly smiled. 3. Kushina frowned at him. This is so you can have children, not just so you can have fun. Can't I have both? Shinzo said innocently. Kushina had to fight to keep from hitting him. In all the years she had suppressed just how annoying he could be. Just make sure to have children, Kushina said. That's your responsibility now. XXXXXXXXXXX. Watching the two of them go, Tsunade let herself have a small laugh. Shinzo's miraculous return was the one good thing that had come from Jiraiya's action. From a drawer she pulled out 2 reports, one from Yamato and one from her idiot teammate. It was quite clear that Jiraiya had deliberately acted without contacting her, knowing she would never have agreed to him taking Naruto and the others to Iwa. Had she been told of his situation she might have sent in a mission, or she might not, but Naruto would never have gone in. Naruto's own words in the reports made it clear he had fought, and killed, a number of Iwa Anbu following the rescue of his uncle. When he eventually returned she would yell at him about not considering the possible consequences of his actions. But in her heart she could not really fault him for taking the risk to save a family member. Under similar circumstances she would have done the same for Naoki. No, she blamed Jiraiya. He had been the one in charge and it had been his decision that had put Naruto in the position to begin with. She looked at a couple other reports. Now because of that decision she was dealing with a great many problems. The reports of the new bounties worried her. Nudoru had been delivered to the village and would have to remain under constant Anbu protection to safeguard his life. Jiraiya and Naruto had been given additional reasons to watch their backs. The embargo and the breaking off of diplomatic relations didn't worry her. What scared her was that Iwa could have declared war over this. She suspected one reason they had chosen not to was Naruto himself. If the reports she had were true, he had killed well over 100 of Iwa's Anbu. Could Kakashi have done that? Or Guy? Or Asuma? She shook her head. Not a chance in hell. Could she have defeated 100 Anbu? She thought about it and answered honestly. No, maybe I could beat half that many. But not 100. Did that mean Naruto was already the most powerful Leaf Ninja? Even if he really wasn't, he was. Now clearly at the very top. And he would get stronger with more time. If he lives. It was a chilling thought and she shoved it away as fast as she could. But the fact was that along with gaining power he was also gaining the wrong sort of notoriety. He was now an S-rank opponent according to the Rock Nins. Naruto was making some very dangerous enemies. And in the meantime the threat of Akatsuki always remained in the background. He didn't need such stunts to remind them of his existence. It was also clear that the Rock Nins would be taking a much greater interest in him now. The list of people who were a threat to Naruto was growing thanks to what had happened. For that she was going to punish Jiraiya when he eventually returned. But she had not yet decided on what punishment it should be. She was stuck between breaking all his bones or skinning him and them dipping him in a barrel of salt. Decisions. Chapter 62. 3 members of Team Kushina gathered at the Namikaze mansion. Tonight her carefully laid plans would all come together. Kushina smiled at the 2 of her students who were in front of her. Haku had grown a few inches and become a bit more rugged. He was still kind and polite, but his relationship with Gabriella and close friendship with Tayuya had given him a better grasp of dealing with women and of relationships in general. Since becoming Chunin, his Kekkei Genkei had grown stronger and even more impressive. Many people, including Tsunade and the council, had noticed and were encouraging him to petition to form a clan. He was well past 17 and so old enough for marriage and beginning a family. But the requirements of forming a clan were proving complicated. Kushina glanced at the powerful and confident Kunoichi, who was holding hands with her boyfriend. Gabriella was also 17 and was a fierce beauty with her dark eyes and long black hair. It was hard for Kushina to believe that the Jonin standing before her had ever been a hair's breadth from losing her ninja status. It was incredible to think that anyone had thought the girl a failure. Kushina had personally given the girl a katana for her 16th birthday and told her she was a first-level blade master. With her Sharingan, her fire jutsus and her ability with a sword, Gabriella was considered one of the top kunoichis in the village and one of the Uchiha clan's elite. Kushina frowned. The Uchiha clan. The clan and more specifically her father were making things difficult. The Uchiha clan's standing in the village had improved a bit, they were no longer hissed at or called murderers. But they were no longer generally admired either. Even with all the tragedies that had dogged them in recent years, the clan held fast to its secretive ways. They also held firm to traditions that were causing Gabriella to face some hard choices. Kushina smiled and let the thought go. There really wasn't anything she could do about it. Haku, go ahead and bring Tayuya in. Haku nodded. Yes, Kushina-sama. He turned to go but was stopped when Gabriella refused to let go of his hand. Sensei, Gabriella said with a warm smile. Why don't I go get her instead? Kushina shook her head. Gabriella, you know that it will be a lot easier if Haku does this. Haku smiled and leaned in to give her a quick kiss. It's all right, I'll be right back with Tayuya. Great, she let go of him and watched him quickly disappear. Kushina could see the way Gabriella's eyes followed him as he left. You know, there's no reason for you to worry. Haku only cares about her as a friend, Gabriella finished for her. I know that. Kushina sighed. This was another problem she really couldn't do anything about. In 2.5 years they had become an effective squad. Their abilities blended well together, so well that they still often worked as a unit despite the promotions. Yet despite their many missions and time spent together, there were strong feelings that remained just beneath the surface. Come on, let's make sure everything is ready. Gabriella nodded. Hi sensei. XXXXXXXXXX. There was a knock on her apartment door and she froze for just a second. Why is he here? Before doing anything else she took a quick look in the mirror. She looked much more feminine than she used to, even if she didn't wear makeup. Her red hair was neatly combed and had been put into a single long braid. She wore a beige skirt that stopped about halfway above her knees and a tan shirt. She no longer wore a cap and her leaf ite was tied around her forehead. The girl staring back at her from the mirror was a strong chunin of the leaf. A beautiful and untamed 17-year-old girl who did not take hash and tea from anyone. Would he like me better if I wore lipstick? She frowned at the girl in the mirror. No, she wasn't a girly girl who always needed to have makeup on. She was no high and mighty Uchiha princess. She didn't waste her time worrying about her looks. She quickly put a couple stray strands back into place before going to answer her door. She already knew who it was, of course. Whenever he was near she just knew it somehow. And even though she saw him all the time she could still feel her heart beat just a little bit faster. She opened her door with a smile. Hi Haku. XXXXXXXXXX. So what is this emergency meeting about? Tayuya asked. The two of them had just arrived at the front door to the Namikaze mansion. I can only tell you that it is a matter of great importance to Kushina and myself. Haku answered truthfully. Tayuya shrugged and they went in through the door. Surprise! A loud shout from many voices greeted them and Tayuya jumped back just a bit. There in the parlor was a small crowd of people and a large banner that read, Happy 17th birthday Tayuya. Happy birthday Tayuya, Haku said to her. Thanks, I guess. Kushina came up to her with a great smile. Happy birthday. Tayuya tried to hide her discomfort as best she could. Thank you sensei, but didn't I tell you I never celebrated my birthdays? Not even when I was little and still with my mom. Kushina nodded. You did, which is why I decided to go ahead and throw you a party. I think it's high time for you to see what it feels like. Who knows? You may just like it. I highly and king doubt that. Well, arigato-sensei, I appreciate you going to all the trouble for me. XXXXXXXXXXX. People came up to her and wished her a happy birthday. She smiled and endured it as best she could. Even after all this time in the Leaf Village and getting to know so many different people, she was really only close to 3, Haku, Kushina, and Alyssa. There was music playing and the dining room was filled with food and drink. The birthday cake had not been put out yet. Tayuya decided to try and hang back and watch the festivities. XXXXXXXXXXX. A little 11-year-old girl in a pink dress and her hair done in 2 braids with pink ribbons ran up to her. Happy birthday Tayuya-chan. Thanks Alyssa-chan. Tayuya really liked the little girl. Even if she did care too much for pink. She bent down and gave the little girl a hug. How are you doing, sweetheart? Alyssa had a huge smile and was bouncing up and down. Great. I love birthday parties. Well, that at least makes one of us. XXXXXXXXXXX. Hinata sought out Kushina after delivering her birthday wishes to Tayuya. She wasn't close to the girl but had still come as a friendly gesture. Looking on the crowded dance floor, the 15-year-old beauty sighed a bit. There were many couples dancing together. Her best friend Ino was dancing with her boyfriend of over a year, Akamichi Choji. Ino had once insisted she could never date a quiet, shy, heavy boy like Choji. Even if it was obvious that he cared for her and would be good to her. Ino would always say she wanted someone like Naruto, someone amazing and cool. Hinata had slowly brought Ino around to the fact that it was never coolness that made Naruto special. It was his warmth and his love for the people in his life. She had helped convince Ino to give Choji a real chance, and a year later they were still happily together. Hinata watched as Ino sent a hard look to another couple on the dance floor. Hinata shook her head. Ino still had very hard feelings about the hostages from Suna. About one hostage in particular. There across the floor Tamari danced close to Shikamaru. When she had first arrived, her hair had been cut short as a sign of mourning. She now wore it in her own unique style with 4 ponytails. Her relationship with Shikamaru was both sweet and frightening at the same time. She would regularly yell at him and hit over the head. She would also walk hand in hand with him and be by his side standing protectively. In a funny way, the two of them sometimes acted like an old married couple. They would regularly complain about each other's faults and argue constantly, but they were always together and always seemed to be happy. There was Haku dancing with his girlfriend. They really did seem perfect for each other. In the time they had been together, they had managed to rub off on one another. He had made her a bit calmer and quieter. She had made him just a bit more outgoing and assertive. She really hoped the two of them would find a way to deal with the problem they were facing. The sight of so many happy couples gave her a small twinge of jealousy. Without conscious thought, she rubbed the diamond ring she now wore on her left hand. She wanted to be one of those happy couples dancing to the music. She wanted the feel of Naruto's arms around her again. Though she was a little sad, there was one consolation. Kushina, Hinata asked eagerly. Has Gamakichi come yet? Kushina shook her head. I'm afraid not. He normally always comes in the morning, but he seems to be running late today. She smiled at her future daughter reassuringly. Don't look so nervous, Hinata-chan. He and the others will definitely be returning in a week. Hinata nodded eagerly. Oh, I know, I can't wait. Kushina nodded. I know, dear, I miss him terribly too. But we just have to be patient for a little while longer. What do you think the surprise he mentioned in the last letter is? Well, knowing my son, he has probably learned a new jutsu. When he finally comes home, we can go over all the wedding arrangements and make sure he's happy with them. Do you think he won't be? Hinata asked a bit nervously. Oh no, I'm sure he'll be relieved that everything is set and that he won't have to worry about it. Hinata frowned just a bit. I wish it wasn't so far away, a whole year. Why do we have to wait all the way until next April to finally marry? Now, dear, you know why. 16 is the minimum age for marriage and you won't be 16 until December. The roses don't bloom until this time of year, so next April would be the earliest you could hold a wedding outside in the rose garden. Maybe we should get married inside, then we wouldn't have to wait. Kushina looked at her in surprise. Why the sudden rush, Hinata-chan? You have waited this long, what are a few more months? I guess it's not a big deal. I just want to be with him always. Kushina placed a gentle hand on Hinata's shoulder. Now Hinata-chan, the important thing is that the two of you love each other and will be a good match. Kushina looked to a spot on the dance floor. Unlike some, she muttered. On the dance floor a certain purple-haired, 27-year-old, special Jonin was dancing with a partner who was 10 years her senior. She had on her usual tan-colored trench coat with only a mini skirt and fishnet on underneath. Her dancing style consisted mostly gyrating wildly and rubbing herself against her dance partner. Her enthusiasm and her style of dancing guaranteed that she and her partner had a wide area all to themselves. Everyone looked at the two of them with a mix of shock and embarrassment and, most of the boys, envy. But Anko just kept going while Shinzo was on the receiving end and had a smile so big it threatened to split his face. Kushina let out a sigh. Even after 6 months she found it hard to believe that she and Uzumaki Anko were sisters-in-law. XXXXXXXXXX. 6 months ago. Please tell me this is a joke. Kushina implored. Shinzo grinned. Nope, I asked her this morning and she said yes. But you barely know her. Kushina growled. How can you marry someone you've only been dating for a week? I know I have more fun being with her than anyone I've ever known. She makes me smile every second I'm with her. She likes being with me too. So what's the problem? The problem is that your job now is to have children and repopulate the Uzumaki clan, not live out a bunch of teenage fantasies. Kushina was on low simmer trying not to blow up at him. He was her older brother and she loved him, honestly she did, but he could be such a child at times. Don't think for 1 second I'll let you out of our deal. Shinzo let out a weary sigh. Look sis, I haven't forgotten. You promised to give me 1/3 of your fortune to help me establish the Uzumaki clan here as soon as I'd fathered 3 legitimate heirs. I want to restore our clan just as much as you or uncle does. I think the fact that I've married Misaki and Aoi and gotten them both pregnant should prove that. Kushina couldn't really argue that. His first 2 wives were very nice, very quiet and very plain women in their late 20s. Both women came from honorable but poor backgrounds. Both also had the ability to mold chakra but failed to become ninjas. But because they could both mold chakra, the odds were practically 100% that the children they had with her brother would be able to as well. Being poor and not really attractive, neither woman had found a husband. They'd been stunned and honored to have the chance to marry into a ninja clan, even with the special circumstances. Her brother was kind to both of them, but felt no love. The marriages had the feeling of being business deals, and in a way they were. The 2 women were marrying into a wealthy new clan where their needs and the needs of their children would always be taken care of. Shinzo got a pair of faithful and committed wives who would give him children. Everyone got something, but love was no part of the bargain. So are you trying to say you love Anko? Shinzo laughed. Every single chance I get. Kushina immediately punched him in the arm. Ow, I'm your sister. Don't say such disgusting things to me. Shinzo rubbed his arm. What's wrong with you? I used to joke like that all the time around you. I'm an adult now. I'm not an immature teen anymore. Shinzo looked at the bruise that was just starting to form on his arm. You sure about that? She sent him an annoyed look but also reached out to touch his arm. Hold on a second. She sent a tiny sliver of chakra out through her fingertips and healed the minor injury. Better. He nodded. Much, thanks sis. She let out a sigh. You know I'm only saying all this because I love you, right? Anko is just not the sort of woman you should marry. I don't want you to get hurt. Shinzo smiled. Kushina, I spent 15 years of my life in Iowa cutting and hauling stone. I think I would enjoy having a woman like that hurt me. Look, I know she's not typical wife material, but hell, that's what I like about her. She makes life exciting and fun. I need some of that, or life here would be as dull and gray as it was for me as a prisoner. Kushina looked at her older brother. Does she understand you're just looking to have fun with her? He laughed. Are you kidding? Do you think she'd agree to this if I weren't? Kushina shook her head. Her marriage and hopefully her sons hadn't been about just having fun. But she was willing to make one very large exception given what his life had been before. Fine, she muttered. But she has to sign the prenuptial like Misaki and Aoi did. Already done, so you'll come to the wedding, right? Sure, but just so you know I give it a month. Shinzo winked. So do I. XXXXXXXXXX. Don't worry about it too much, Hinata-chan. The important thing is that when you and Naruto marry, it will be for love. That's what matters, Kushina stated. XXXXXXXXXXX. Tayuya leaned against the wall and watched as Haku and Gabriella slow danced. On the outside she was calm and relaxed, inside she ached with that old familiar hurt. Why were some people just handed everything? Gabriella had a huge family that adored her, she was the heir to her clan, she had a powerful Kekkei Genkei, had made Jonin, was rich, beautiful, smart, and if all that wasn't enough she had Haku. The bitch was AF hash and Keian princess. So why did she also have to get the one guy that Tayuya felt something for? It wasn't fair. Out of nowhere a big smiling face popped up in front of her. Hey baby, did you miss me? Tayuya gave the annoying boy a flat look. No, and you smell like wet dog. Kiba laughed and leaned in just a little closer. Me and Kakashi just got back from A rank all the way out in Waterfall. Sensei wanted to take it easy and get here tomorrow morning, but there was no way I was missing your party. I even got you a special present. His smile suddenly became a leer. If you got me panties, I swear I will shove them down your throat. She saw his smile slip. F-sharp and king figures. Why do you have to be so mean to me? Kiba complained. I'm just trying to be nice to you. She sneered. Yeah right, I know what you're trying to do. And by the way, she reached out and grabbed his chin, jerking it up a bit so they were on the same eye level. I'm up here. Kiba grinned, feeling a bit embarrassed but not really put off. Let me take you out sometime. No, but why not? It's not like you have a boyfriend. Her face got a little hot at the mention of a boyfriend. She pushed him back and he was forced to take a couple steps away from her. I'll tell you why not. Because you're just like every other boy I've ever met. Except for Haku. You're just a dog in heat. You only want one thing and the only reason you keep after me is because like a dog you love the chase. If I ever gave you what you wanted, which I never will, you'd forget about me and chase someone else. Kiba couldn't help but laugh. Well, I do like the chase, that's true. But I don't think I could forget about a girl like you. She really was incredible with a firm athletic body and curves in all the right places. He'd been with a few girls, and he was willing to admit that the fact that she was hard to get only made him want her more. Just give me one chance, I promise you won't be sorry. She looked past him to where Haku and Gabriella were dancing. Forget it, you're just not my type. XXXXXXXXXXX. The cake was brought out. On top of it were a couple of wax candles in the form of a 1 and a 7. Make a wish and blow out the candles, Alyssa said excitedly. All right. Tayuya smiled, she knew exactly what she wanted. She blew the candles out. What did you wish for? Haku asked. She can't tell you or it won't come true. Alyssa declared. Tayuya grinned and gave Haku a little shrug. You heard her. XXXXXXXXXXX. The party was still going on inside but the two of them had managed to sneak out unnoticed. It was April and the night air was just a little chill. Gabriella didn't mind as it gave her an additional reason to get close to him. They were on a little bench in the rose garden, the roses had only just begun to bloom again. She was sitting on his lap and leaning into his strong warm body. Her arms were wrapped around his neck and her lips were merged with his. Haku pulled her just a little closer and held her just a little tighter. They were happy. This was their refuge from all the world's problems. In each other's arms their worries could be forgotten and for a short while they could just be happy. XXXXXXXXXXX. From a second-story window Tayuya watched the happy couple make out. She really hated that superior stuck-up rich bitch. She was also jealous as hell. Not because of Gabriella's family, or ability, or wealth, or beauty. But just because she had the one thing Tayuya really wanted, Haku's love. She walked away from the window and decided it was time to go home. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kushina was lying out in the parlor surrounded by paper plates, half-empty cups, and discarded wrapping paper. The servants would clean everything in the morning. She'd already put Alyssa to bed. Haku had gone out. Shinzo, Anko, Misaki, and Aoi had gone to their rooms in the west wing. She felt a disturbing certainty that Shinzo and Anko would still be up for a while. There was a sudden puff of smoke and Gamakichi appeared in the hallway. She got up to greet her visitor. I'd given up on seeing you today. Gamakichi handed her the leather pouch. Oh, the boss just wanted to practice to make sure he had it down. What was he practicing? Gamakichi smiled. Open the pouch and you'll see. Confused, she nevertheless did so. She was surprised to find that the usual letters and reports were missing. There was only one thing in the pouch. She pulled out a three-pronged kunai with a special formula carved into the handle. She recognized it instantly. Minato had used them. They were the tools he used for his signature jutsu. Her eyes boggled. No, he couldn't have, could he? He said you should put that on the floor somewhere and step back. He was going to cast the jutsu a couple minutes after I left. Feeling a bit numb, Kushina carefully put the three-pronged kunai on the floor and took a couple steps back. Her eyes remained on the tri-kunai. The jutsu her son was attempting was considered so complex as to be almost impossible to master. Jiraiya had given up on it years ago. It is rumored that Orochimaru had tried to copy it, only to fail miserably. This jutsu had made Minato more powerful than entire ninja armies. Any ninja who could master it would surely be considered the most powerful one in the village. I told Pervy Granddad I'd figure it out. Out of thin air he'd appeared. She saw a much taller and more muscled 15-year-old Naruto standing in front of her. He was wearing his Hitai Ite across his forehead and had on the red and black Uzumaki battle suit. Seeing his mother, Naruto gave her one of his huge smiles. Hey mom, I wanted to surprise you and show you that I finally figured out how to make the Hiraishin no Jutsu work. Pretty cool, huh? He stood there waiting for her reaction. His mother, however, was just standing there with her jaw open staring at him. He found the lack of a reaction sort of disappointing. Mom, don't I even get a hug? That seemed to finally snap her out of it. She put her arms around her son and hugged him for all he was worth. It was a little shocking to her to see he was now as tall as she was. He had changed some, no doubt. But one thing would never change. My baby's home, she shouted and began planting kisses all over his face. He whined exactly like he always had. I'm not a baby. She laughed, so unbelievably happy to hear those words from him. Oh yes, you're my baby and you always will be. She began covering his face with kisses again. It was a long-awaited return. Namikaze Naruto had come home. Chapter 63. Hinata hurried back into the Namikaze mansion. She had been getting ready for bed when Kushina had called. As soon as she entered, she saw a smiling Kushina standing by the kitchen door. So Gamakichi finally came? Hinata asked eagerly. Did Naruto-kun write me a letter? Kushina shook her head, but her smile remained firmly in place. No, but my son sent a gift instead. One I know you are going to like. A gift? Hinata asked. But tell me something, Hinata-chan, what would you have liked most? She shrugged. I would love anything he sent me. The only thing I truly want is for Naruto-kun to be here. Cool, I got you the right gift. The kitchen door swung open. There smiling at her was Naruto. Hinata gasped. Naruto-kun. She leapt and glomped onto him. Naruto-kun, you're home. He laughed. It felt so good to have his beautiful Hinata-chan back in his arms again. And he hadn't missed the fact that in their time apart she had developed some. Yeah, I'm home, Hinata-chan. He squeezed her tight. I'm home. She turned her face up and he brought his lips down to meet hers. It was an eager kiss, a welcoming kiss. For both of them it was a reminder of what they'd had and a welcome preview of what the two of them would share together. Sighing happily, she pressed her face into the side of his neck. I am so happy, Naruto-kun, I've missed you so much. He squeezed her just a little bit tighter. I missed you too, my sweet Hinata-chan. She looked up at him with her pale eyes filled with love. Please don't ever leave me again. His smile faded just a little. You know I can't promise you that, Hinata-chan. Being a ninja I can't always choose. But I'll promise to never leave you again by choice. It wasn't what she'd wanted, but she nodded, she understood and it would do. She leaned forward and they began to kiss again. XXXXXXXXXX. Kushina quietly left to give the reunited couple some privacy. She decided she could give them one night without any protective surveillance. XXXXXXXXXX. There was a knock on her door. Surprised, she hurried to answer it, knowing who was there. Haku, what are you doing here? He smiled at her. You left your party so early, I wanted to just make sure everything was all right. Tayuya gave him a smile. I'm fine, do you want to come in? Nodding, he entered her apartment. He actually visited her often. They spent a great deal of time together, as friends. Do you want some tea? Yes please. Haku sat down on the couch as he usually did while she headed into the kitchen. Did you like your party? She filled a kettle with water and tossed in a tea bag. It wasn't too bad I guess. I certainly made out like a bandit. She put the kettle on the stove. Thank you for buying me a new flute, I love it. Why did you throw Kiba's present at him? Because he's AF hash and king pervert who thinks he's going to get me and he's never gonna. She sat down next to Haku. Is he really that bad? Haku asked. I think Kiba is a good guy. You would, he's not trying to sleep with you. Haku grinned. If he were I'd take it as a compliment. Yuya laughed and shook her head. I am going to tell him you said that. He smiled and looked closely at her. Are you all right? She nodded. Never better. Then why did you leave so soon? She shrugged. You know me, I'm not exactly a party girl. I like this better. He nodded. One of the reasons he came over so often was because he knew how much she enjoyed it. He enjoyed it too. He just wished his spending time with her did not bother Gabriella as much as it did. They talked for a bit until the kettle began to whistle. Yuya got up and poured them each a cup. As he drank some and placed his cup back down. You know, there's something I wanted to ask you. What did you wish for? Haku looked at her intently. You looked like you were really thinking about it before you blew out the candles. She shook her head. If I tell you it won't come true. She sighed a bit sadly. Not that I think it will come true anyway. Whatever your wish is I would like to help you get it. She looked at him and her face began to gain some color. Do you really mean that? If you could help me get my wish would you really help or are you just saying that? He looked at her in surprise. To Yuya we are not only teammates but really close friends. If I can help you get something you really want then I would. She looked away from him and instead stared at the cup she was holding. She hesitated for a bit before mumbling something in a small voice. I'm sorry, what did you say? Her hands were shaking a bit so she set her cup down on the table. Inside her heart was pounding like mad. She was scared. She took a deep breath and quietly repeated what she had said. My wish was for you to kiss me. XXXXXXXXXX. Under a night sky the two of them were kissing. They were sitting on their favorite bench surrounded by roses. As they pulled apart just a bit Naruto let a single hand run along her outer thigh. The feel of his touch made her shiver just a bit and she pressed herself just a little more against his strong muscled body. You're so beautiful Hinata-chan. He let his hand rest there on her thigh as he spoke teasingly in her ear. You've always been beautiful, but now you've become a woman. She could feel her heart pounding within her and knew her face had to be completely red. Arigato Naruto-kun, you've gotten much more handsome. You really look like a man. She paused but decided to go ahead. Naruto-kun, there was something I wanted to talk to you about. It's something I didn't want to put in a letter. What is it Hinata-chan? He asked curiously. Well, you know your uncle has been allowed to marry 3 wives in order to repopulate his clan. Yeah I know, he actually shuddered a bit. I still can't believe that Anko is my aunt now. Hinata nodded and looked down. Well, the fact is that you're in the same position with your clan. She took a deep breath. Do you, well, I think you might want to, Hinata-chan. He whispered and she stopped. She looked up and focused completely on those perfect blue eyes and gentle smile. Are you worried I might want to have more than one wife? She nodded. I would understand if. Whatever she was about to say she never got the chance as he leaned in and cut her off with a kiss. Hinata-chan, he said tenderly. You're my only one. I love only you and you're the only one I want to have a family with and grow old with. I love you too Naruto-kun, with all my heart. Hinata answered with relief. He grinned at her and they began to kiss. For him there could never be anyone else but her. Blissful and content she welcomed him home. For both of them their hearts were now whole again. XXXXXXXXXXX. You want me to kiss you? Haku said nervously. That's right. That's what I wished for. To have. You kiss me just once the way you do her. To Yuya, you know I care about you, but it would be wrong. She looked away from him feeling hurt and stupid. Yeah, I know. Why the hell would you want to kiss someone as plain and foul-mouthed as me when you have your perfect little princess? Why did IF Hash and King tell him? What the F Hash and K was I thinking? Like he would ever really wanna kiss me. To Yuya, I've told you before that she's not a princess. She's had a lot of problems she's had to deal with. Yeah, I'm sure her life has been really and brutal. Much harder than mine or yours. He always defended her. To Yuya's heart sank as she knew there was no contest. Gabriella had his love and there was no way she could even compete. Listen, just forget it. It's not like I ever thought it would really happen. There was an awkward silence between them as they both just sat there. Haku eyeing her carefully while she kept her eyes locked on the cooling tea in front of her. Was that truly your wish? Haku asked quietly. Yeah, it was. Very well. She felt his hand gently touch her cheek. She looked over to him and saw him slowly leaning over towards her. What are you doing? She said in a husky whisper as his face drew near hers. I said I would help you get your wish, and I will. He kissed her. She shut her eyes and drank in the warmth and softness of his lips. It was a short kiss, but a real one. It seemed to last forever, but was still over too soon. As he slowly released the pressure and pulled away, she opened her eyes to look at him. His eyes were tender, but she could see the trace of guilt. His hand stroked her cheek and withdrew. Happy birthday. He got up from the couch. I should go now. She quickly stood as well. Reaching out, she took hold of both his hands. You don't have to go. You can just stay and talk if you want. Or anything else you might want to do. He shook his head and carefully withdrew his hands. I don't think that would be wise. He took a deep breath. To Yuya, I care for you very much, but only as a friend and teammate. But I love Gabriella, even with the obstacles we face, my heart is hers. What I did just now was to give you your wish, but my heart is still hers. To Yuya nodded. I understand, she said quietly. Don't worry, I won't cause you any trouble with her and I'll keep our kiss a secret if that's you want. Thank you to Yuya, you are a very dear friend and precious person. He quietly left. Left alone, she headed off to bed with a slight smile on her lips. She was still only a friend to him, but he had still kissed her. I guess some wishes really do come true. XXXXXXXXXX. Early the following morning, Kushina and Naruto had gone to meet with Tsunade. Not surprisingly, Naruto was eager to relate how he had managed to teleport across 1400 miles using his father's signature jutsu. So Jiraiya, Grand Uncle Seishu, and Yamato will be back in about a week. Naruto smiled and rubbed the back of his head. I didn't want to wait and I wanted to make a big impression. Tsunade quirked an eyebrow. You mean like when you took on half of Iwa all by yourself? Naruto looked embarrassed. It wasn't half of Iwa, it was only a couple hundred or so Anbu. Tsunade and Kushina shared a look. Naruto, Tsunade tried to explain. Do you understand that when you go out of your way to show off your power, all that you're really doing is making yourself a bigger target? She took out a simple book and handed it to him. That is a copy of the Iwa Bingo book. You're listed on page 22, take a look. He eagerly flipped to the aforementioned page. He immediately looked disappointed. Aw man, they don't have a very good picture of me. He thought of something. Hey, do you think if I sent them a picture? No. Both women said at once. Naruto, his mother scolded. You are not supposed to try and help your enemies identify you. Let's try and keep on track. Tsunade said. Naruto, what is listed under your entry? He quickly read off the highlights. Only son of Namikaze Minato, also known as the Yellow Flash of Konoha, Jinchuriki container of the Nine-Tailed Kyuubi demon, killed 300 Suna ninjas during the Battle of Konoha including the Kase Cage. Wind type, specialty jutsus include Kage Bushin, Rasengan, and Kamikaze, 5th level Blade Master, has a 15 million Ryu bounty to be paid if killed or captured. His smile suddenly got wider and his voice was excited. An S-ranked opponent, he is extraordinarily dangerous. All Iwa ninjas are ordered to retreat on sight. He handed the book back. That's great. They have a retreat on sight order for me just like they did for my dad. Tsunade shook her head. Naruto, you are completely missing the point. All your enemies understand just how dangerous you are. That means that when they come after you, and they will, they are going to be just that much more cautious and better prepared. But Godmother, how can I become Hokage without making a name for myself? I have to be recognized as the best ninja in this village. I'm not going to do that without the other villages knowing who I am too. Tsunade sighed. That's true, Naruto, but there's a difference between earning a well-deserved reputation and taking stupid risks. Seeing his stubborn look, she sighed. Naruto hated looking weak. That was one aspect of being a ninja he'd never really embraced. Alright, we'll talk more about this another day. But I have in mind a very special demonstration that will involve you showing off your skills in a productive manner. She sent her godson a very eager smile. How would you like to show off your new jutsu to a few people? From his smile she knew she wouldn't have to ask twice. XXXXXXXXXX. Training Ground 17 had been closed off and was secured by several squads of Anbu. A very special demonstration was about to take place. In a thick forest 15 ninjas each picked up a lily and quickly hid themselves. Their instructions had been clear. They were to disguise their presence to the best of their ability while remaining within the training ground and holding onto one of the lilies. A couple used genjutsu while most were satisfied in taking expert cover within tree branches or bushes. They were all elite ninja and most skilled at concealing themselves. In a clearing in the very center of the training ground, Tsunade looked at her watch. The 5 minutes she'd given them were up. She turned to her godson with a grin. Show them all what you can do, Naruto. He nodded. That was all the permission he needed. He ran though the complex hand signs. Hiraishin no Jutsu. He blinked away for just a handful of seconds. Then appeared again in the exact same spot as if nothing had happened. He opened his hands and the tops of 15 lilies fell to the ground. XXXXXXXXXX. All 15 members of the council were gathered before Tsunade and Naruto. They all still held the stems of the flowers they had taken. Every single one had been cut neatly in an instant while in the hands of a ninja. None of them had seen anything more than a momentary blur. Most of the council members looked stunned, a handful wore smiles. Tsunade put a proud hand on her godson's shoulder. I trust this demonstration was sufficient proof for all of you. Danzo looked absolutely stunned. The yellow flash of Konoha is reborn. He'd spoken quietly, but in the stillness everyone had heard him. Head began to nod. Tsunade nodded happily. If an arch-enemy like Danzo was in awe, this would likely go the way she hoped. Naruto has just completed his extended apprenticeship with Jiraiya and you can see the time was not wasted. He has mastered the legendary Hiraishin no Jutsu, the only ninja other than his father to ever do so. With this extraordinary ability you will all agree that Naruto is now one of our village's elite shinobi even without use of the Kyuubi's chakra. She paused and was pleased as again most heads nodded. It was time to play her cards. I formally call the question and ask each of you to state your vote. You vote in the middle of a training ground. We should schedule a formal meeting for something so important. Ryuki stated. And give you a chance to scrape up enough votes to block. Oh, I don't think so. As Hokage I am well within my rights to call for a vote whenever there is a quorum of the council available. All 15 members are present and there is no rule about where a vote may take place. Before Ryuki could object, Kushina spoke up. On behalf of the Namikaze clan I vote yes. The newest member of the council sent his nephew a wink and a grin. The Uzumaki clan says yes. Shikamaru grinned. Even though it's going to be troublesome, the Nara clan says yes. The Yamenka clan says no. Mishio said flatly. Akamichi says yes. There were a few frowns as the traditional Ino-Shika-Cho unity was nowhere to be seen. Soon barked an easy laugh. Inazuka says yes, my son would never talk to me again if I said anything else. No. Uchiha Ryuki let the stem fall to the ground. It is only logical. Aburame says yes. Shibi spoke. Danzo nodded. You truly are the strongest now. I say yes. Kaharu opened her mouth as though to argue, but said nothing. She looked at the stem she still held. She let out a weary sigh. Yes. Asuma tossed his cigarette down and crushed it beneath his heel. If my dad were here he'd be very proud of you, Naruto. Sarutobi says yes. The remaining council members said yes, and just that easy it was finally done. Tsunade had to keep herself from jumping up and down. The Hokage had to have some dignity after all. By a vote of 13-2 we have more than the 2/3 majority required and thus the resolution is formally passed into law. She turned to her godson and addressed him directly. Namikaze Naruto, it is my wish and the wish of the council that you be formally recognized as my successor. Will you accept this responsibility? It was what he had dreamed of since being a small child. I will. And I promise I will make you proud of me. Naruto, I don't doubt that for a second. Tsunade said joyously. XXXXXXXXXXX. As most of the council members approached Naruto to congratulate him, Ryuki quietly departed. It now seemed certain that one day, not immediately but soon, Naruto would become the Rokudaime Hokage. Though things can happen between now and then, he said quietly and to himself. Chapter 64. Gabriella, please come into my study. She looked at her father a bit nervously. He was using that tone, the one he used whenever he was going to talk to her about something unpleasant. Actually, Dad, I was just about to go. Can we talk about this later? He shook his head. We've put this off long enough. You've had months. But, in my study please. Yes, father. Gabriella trudged into the study behind her father. Sitting behind his desk, he waited for his daughter to take a seat before beginning. You'll be turning 18 in June, just a couple months away. Yes. She eyed him nervously. He decided to come to the point. We need a decision on who you intend to marry by then. Why? She demanded. Dad, I'm only going to be 18. Most girls don't get married until they're in their 20s. Why am I getting forced into this? Why can't I just make my own decision in my own good time? You already know the answer to that. Because I'm an Uchiha, she grumbled. But her father shook his head. No, because you are ninja and because you are in a clan. Honey, you should understand this perfectly. You never even knew your mother. No matter how skilled we may be, a ninja's life is always uncertain. We are not afforded the luxury of taking our time if we wish to have children. Also, as you are a part of a clan, you bear the additional responsibility of providing future members of the Uchiha clan. Well, now we really come down to it. She took on a stubborn look. This is all about Haku, isn't it? Again her father shook his head. What this is about is identity and family. The clan needs to know whether after you are married if you will be an Uchiha or a Momochi. Why does it matter? He leaned back in his chair. Tell me something, daughter. Who is the clan heir of the Hyuga? Hyuga Hanabi. Yes, but her older sister Hinata was the one originally designated. Now why do you suppose Hiashi changed the designation? She could see where this was going. Because Hinata was betrothed to Namikaze Naruto. And why was she not permitted to remain clan heir? Gabriella sighed. Because once she is married, she and her children will not be considered Hyuga but Namikaze. True, now what if she had married a ninja who was not a clan member or married a rich merchant or minor noble? Then her husband would likely have changed his name to Hyuga. Hinata would have become heir and her children would have been part of the Hyuga clan. Her father again nodded. So you can see it is not really because you are an Uchiha, but rather that you are a member of a ninja clan. Now you have been given a great deal of leeway in the matter so far. But as an Uchiha and especially as clan heir, you have certain responsibilities that you will not be allowed to put off indefinitely. You need not marry immediately, but the clan requires that you come to some sort of decision by the time you are 18. I am not speaking just on my own behalf, the elders are also insistent in you reaching a decision. What if I refuse to make a decision? What will you do? Throw me out of the clan? Ryuki sighed. Don't be so melodramatic. Do you think you are the first or last clan kunoichi to ever be in this situation? No one wants to expel you, but you will no longer be designated the heir. I know how strong your feelings for Haku are and that they are returned. Have the two of you discussed marriage? She blushed a bit and slowly nodded. He hasn't proposed, but we've talked about it in general. He waited, but she did not go on. And he wishes to form his own clan. She said quietly. I see. And what do you want? I want to be with him. But I also want to be able to change the Uchiha clan for the better. We need to change, Dad. There's a reason for all the things that have gone wrong in the last few years. We need to change our mindset and the way we see ourselves. We need to stop being separate from the rest of the village. Ryuki frowned. Dear, we are separate. We are a special elite of the village. It is important that we not forget that. There is after all a reason for the wall that surrounds the compound. The events surrounding Itachi and Sasuke were tragic, but they don't change the fundamental truth. Now it was Gabriella who shook her head. No, father, what happened to Sasuke and Itachi was a result of our misguided obsession with the Sharingan and with our status as an elite. I am sure that if they had been born into other clans they would have been happier. Her father shrugged, dismissing the idea. Happiness is no part of being a ninja. Those words reminded her of what Itachi had once said to her. Happiness has nothing to do with being a ninja. That is not true, father. Kushina is the strongest and finest kunoichi I have ever met. She is a powerful ninja and truly fierce and terrible when in battle. But she loves and laughs and jokes. She believes that happiness and duty are not exclusive. She is not the only one, most of the other clans feel that way. So you would try and make us like the other clans. Honey, we are Uchiha. Gabriella frowned. Which is the same as saying we are special. Tell me, Dad, why was I so unimportant one day and so special the next? Was I really so different just because I got my Sharingan? Dad, can't you see the problem of a clan that turns its back on its members just because they don't activate their Kekkei Genkei? Don't you see the problems caused by having your value as a clan member judged solely by whether or not you have a Sharingan? Gabriella, I am truly sorry that you suffered while waiting to achieve the Sharingan. But achieving the Sharingan is vital, and it is only proper that achieving it be treated as a high priority. Even to the point of making a perfectly good ninja feel worthless just because she hasn't. She stopped and took a deep breath. Father, I disagree with our entire philosophy and want to change it. And the very first thing I'd do as clan head would be to tear down the wall outside our compound. Ryuki gave her a surprised look. Tear down the wall? Honey, do you have any idea the opposition you would face if you tried to do that? It needs to be done whether people oppose it or not, and it would just be the start. Gabriella, you would have a better chance of walking up a waterfall than of changing the Uchiha clan in the way you want. It needs to be done, Dad, and I mean to do it. Well, if you are clan head you can try. But not if you marry into another clan. The choice is yours, daughter. XXXXXXXXXXX. At the Namikaze mansion there was a celebration going on to both welcome Naruto home and to honor his appointment as Tsunade's successor. Since he had arrived late the previous night and left early to meet with Tsunade, this was his first meeting with most of his extended family. Kakashi and Kiba had also come by so that they could have a little reunion of Team 7. XXXXXXXXXXX. So you've been apprenticed to Nissan all this time, huh? Naruto asked. Kiba nodded. Yeah, it's been great. We've gone out on a bunch of really tough missions, I've learned to summon his nin dogs, and he taught me a bunch of new jutsus. Hinata had her arm around Naruto's. He has also fallen for someone. Oh really? Naruto grinned. Hey, come on, Hinata-chan, it's not like that at all. Kiba looked as though he wanted to run. So who's the lucky girl? Naruto asked. Tayuya. Kiba muttered. Tayuya. The X-sound ninja who curses like a sailor. That Tayuya. Hey, she doesn't curse that much anymore and she's really changed. Hinata giggled. Coming to her defense, Kiba. Naruto held up his hand. That's all right, I mean if you like her that's fine. So she's your girlfriend? Kiba looked a bit embarrassed. Not exactly. Oh, okay, so you're dating casually. Well, technically we're not actually dating. So you're just close friends. Well, I don't really know if we're that either. Kiba admitted. Naruto just looked at his friend and teammate. So what exactly are you two? Well, I'm sort of trying to get her attention. I keep trying to ask her out but she keeps saying no. So I've decided to keep trying to win her over and be near her whenever I can. Naruto slowly began to smile. He suddenly pointed at his friend. You're Tayuya's fanboy. He laughed. I am not. But the more vehemently Kiba denied it, the more Naruto laughed. XXXXXXXXXXX. This is for you. Naruto handed her a handcrafted porcelain doll dressed in a pink kimono. I got it for you in Nagano. Alyssa screeched in delight as she accepted the gift. Arigato Nissan. She gave him a hug. I'm so glad you're home again. Me too. He reached down to return her hug. As he hugged her he picked her up. Eek. She quickly settled onto his shoulders. Nissan, I'm much too grown up to be riding on your shoulders. Oh really? Naruto grinned at her. Then I guess you're too grown up to want to braid hair. That's different. Will you let me braid your hair, Nissan? Yes, just as soon as everyone has gone home. He laughed at his Imouto's shouts of joy. XXXXXXXXXXX. So you like Tayuya? Kushina smiled as she approached him. It's not like that. Kiba insisted. Kiba, Kushina stated. It's not really a secret. It's been obvious for a while now. I was just wondering, why did she throw your present at you? Well, I think she mad that I got her some sexy panties. Kiba admitted. He saw Kushina's face blanch. What? Kiba, where on earth did you get the idea that panties would be an appropriate gift? Sensei suggested them. Oh, he would. Kushina shook her head and muttered something about perverts. Listen Kiba, if you want to try and impress a girl you should try and show her you're interested in something she cares about. Like what? Well, in Yuya's case she loves music. Can you sing or play an instrument? I can't sing, but I used to play an instrument when I was younger. I stopped a couple years ago. That's perfect. Why don't you practice with your instrument and then play it outside her window one night? Kiba looked at her. Isn't that sort of weak? No. It's romantic. Every girl dreams about being serenaded. If you do it then I guarantee that she'll definitely notice you. Maybe. XXXXXXXXXX. He saw Anko in the kitchen snacking on some dango. He hadn't really spoke to her yet and so decided to try and welcome her into his family. Hello Aunt Anko, I was just. His mouth snapped shut as a kunai flew past his head. He could feel a slight burn where it had just cut his cheek and a little bit of blood began to leak out. Hi there, Anko said in a chipper voice and with a smile. First rule, don't call me aunt, it makes me feel old. Second, as if materializing, Kushina appeared behind Anko and grabbed the back of her head, pulled it back as she placed a kunai to her throat. Second rule, Kushina spoke with anger in her voice. Don't ever attack my son again or draw his blood. I've killed people for a lot less than that. She let go and put away her kunai. Anko grinned, not seeming to be bothered in the least. Wow, and I thought I was a scary bitch. She turned to Naruto. It's nice to see you again, Naruto. She hummed as she exited the kitchen. Naruto wiped the blood off his cheek. She scares me. Kushina nodded. She scares everyone, dear. XXXXXXXXXXX. You doing okay? Haku. His friend nodded. Welcome back home, Naruto, and congratulations on being named successor. Thanks, it's a dream come true. So why are you hanging out by yourself? Well, I have been pondering something. He was silent for just a bit. Do you think it would be selfish of me to want to found my own clan? Are you kidding? Of course not. I think it would be great. Naruto said. Wait, why don't you look happy? Because there are issues I have to consider. Naruto, Haku paused and then asked. What would you have done if Hinata had refused to marry you unless you joined her clan? Hinata would never have done that. Very well, what would you have done if Hiashi-san had made it a condition to marrying her? Naruto had never once considered that, so he stopped to give the question some real thought. I think, he answered slowly, that if I had a brother or someone else to carry on the family name I would agree. I love her that much. But, being the only Namikaze, I couldn't let the clan die with me. If I did that I would be failing not just my father but all my ancestors who were Namikaze as well. I couldn't let that happen. Not even for Hinata. I'm not saying it would be an easy choice or something I'd want to do. Naruto confirmed. I know it would break my heart. But I couldn't let my clan die, not even for her. As much as I love her, for a ninja sometimes duty must come before all else, even love. It's like when Godmother says she's acting as the Hokage when she puts the people she loves in danger for the sake of her duty. Haku slowly nodded. Thank you, Naruto, that helps some. XXXXXXXXXX. 1 week later. Tsunade, a very nervous Jiraiya asked. Why are we meeting in Anbu headquarters? Tsunade gave him a smile that only made him more nervous. Well, you know, when I found out you had taken my godson into a ninja village filled with people who hate him and would kill him on sight, I was very angry with you. Now Suand, I can explain. The Hokage didn't miss a beat. But then of course he did learn a great deal while traveling with you, and I'm willing to admit his becoming successor is largely due to your help. Jiraiya let out a relieved sigh. So you're not mad at me anymore, right? Suan smiled and showed all her teeth. Well, now I wouldn't say that. She took something out and placed it on the table in the room. What is the 5-pound bag of salt for? Just be glad it's not a barrel. Huh. Tsunade produced his scalpel. Now hold out your right arm and we'll get started. Fortunately for all of Konoha, his screams could not be heard through the thick walls. XXXXXXXXXXX. Karen leaned back on the couch and had another glass of champagne. It had taken almost 3 more years of additional research and effort, but the day had finally come. As she relaxed, there was a knock on the door to her penthouse. May I come in? A voice called to her. Of course, Karen shouted. It's not locked. The door opened and in strolled a tall, broad-shouldered man with short cropped blonde hair. He wore well-shined plate armor with a large crest with a golden hawk in flight. I just wanted to inform you in person that the invitations have been sent out to our 5 prospective clients. Some or all of them should have their representatives here within 2 weeks. Karen nodded pleased. Thank you Lord Taka. How much do you think we will make? For what you are selling the bidding will begin at 100 million ryu and where it will end I can only guess. After all you are selling the secrets of Orochimaru. He looked at her with an amused grin. You realize of course that whoever gains this knowledge will become far more powerful. You are very likely to tip the balance of power in the ninja lands. She shrugged and had another sip of champagne. Just so long as I get to be rich I don't really care. Chapter 65. Say, Naruto, now that you've been designated my successor how would you like to get a taste of what being Hokage is like? Tsunade asked with an innocent look on her face. Really? Naruto answered excitedly. Tsunade nodded, careful not to smile too broadly. Oh absolutely. Now that you are officially recognized as my successor I'm permitted to train you and get you some experience in the position. Why as successor you're even allowed to perform as an acting Hokage for certain tasks. Naruto's eyes lit up. He saw himself wearing the Hokage robe speaking to a room filled with clan heads. Their attention wrapped around his every word. That would be wonderful godmother thank you so much. Ha, ha, ha. Don't mention it Naruto. So why don't you come by the tower at 7 AM and we'll get started? I'll be there. XXXXXXXXXX. Tayuya was lying on her couch just relaxing and listening to some jazz. It had been a weird day. She'd spent a couple hours with her team on a minor C rank. The mission itself had been nothing of note. What had made it odd was the way that Haku and Gabriella had been relating to each other. Their usual close bond had been completely missing today. When they had talked it had been strained and most surprising of all she couldn't remember them holding hands even once. Something was going on between those two. As she lay there replaying the day's events and listening to the smooth music her peace of mind was disturbed by a loud series of crashes and booms. Not too much later she heard a bunch of shouts from her neighbors. What the hell are you doing? I'm calling the military police. People are trying to get some rest here. Take your big dog and get out of here. Big dog. Oh no, it couldn't be. She got up from her couch and went over to her window. Opening it she stuck her head out to look down into the courtyard. Oh you have got to be F# and King kidding me. There in the courtyard was Kiba sitting on the back of Akamaru. Somehow or other he had managed to set up an entire drum kit, including cymbals, attached to a saddle. He was playing a rendition of what she thought was a love song on his drums. He was actually not too bad, but the effect of the romantic tune was sort of lost in the loud bams and smacks of the drum and repeated crash of the cymbals. Kiba! Tayuya shouted down at him. What the hell are you doing? Kiba stopped and smiled up at her. Hey Tayuya, I've come to serenade you. What? I've come to serenade you. He repeated. Tayuya suddenly noticed glares from her many neighbors being turned in her direction. Well don't. Will you go out with me? He called up. No. I will not F# and King go out with you. Now get out of here and stop bothering me. With a big grin he began to hit the drums again. What the F# and K are you doing? I'm going to keep serenading you until you agree to go out on a date with me. A dark look crossed her face. Like hell you are. She went back inside for a minute and got some of her ninja gear together. Returning to the window she tossed some kunai. Kiba noticed some pieces of paper attached to them. Crap. Move Akamaru. Akamaru leapt away just in time to avoid the explosive notes. Don't come back you flea-bitten mutt, and take your dog with you. Even as he was fleeing on Akamaru's back Kiba was laughing. You're beautiful when you're angry. He shouted back. XXXXXXXXXXX. Naruto arrived at the tower well before 7 and was eager for his first real taste of the duty of being a Hokage. Oh my Naruto. Tsunade said encouragingly as they met. Don't you look excited? Well let's get to my office. Are you really going to let me be the acting Hokage, Hokage-sama? Tsunade nodded with a grand smile. Oh absolutely. They entered her office. Would you like to sit behind my desk? Sure. He sat down in her chair. This wasn't the first time. She let him there a few times when he was little and pretend. But this was different. This time he had a legitimate right to be sitting there. Swinging the chair around he looked out the large window upon the village of Konoha. What do you think? Tsunade asked with a hint of amusement. He smiled at her absolutely content. It's a nice chair and I like the view. Glad you approve. The office door opened. Ah, perfect timing. A frowning Shizune entered. She was holding a stack of papers in her hands that climbed all the way to her chin. Maneuvering expertly, she managed to get them to the desk without tripping. Here are the morning reports that require the Hokage's signature and seal. You also have a full set of appointments, so you'll want to get this all done by noon or you won't have time for lunch. And no slacking off, Lady Tsunade. You're already a week behind on your paperwork. Tsunade smiled at her faithful assistant. Oh, I'm sorry Shizune, but today Naruto will be acting as my stand-in. He'll be acting Hokage for the day. Naruto looked nervously at the stack of papers that had been set on the desk. What are all these? He asked nervously. Shizune sent Tsunade a hard look. You are not trying to lay all your work off on Naruto, are you? I'm just trying to get him a little experience. She went to the side of the desk and opened the top drawer. She pulled out a small rubber stamp and ink pad. Now Naruto, all these have been sent here to receive your signature and stamp top, make them official. Shizune will answer all your questions and show you what to do. I'll see you later. Where are you going? Naruto asked. Tsunade laughed. Probably back to bed. It has been a while since I had a day off. I'll come back at 7 when you get done for the day. If there's an emergency, Shizune will know how to contact me. But only if there's an emergency. With that she departed. Shizune sighed and shook her head. I'm sorry about this, Naruto, but we really do need all these papers to be approved by the Hokage before they can be put into effect. He was staring at the stack of papers. I really have to go through all theses. There are 5 more stacks. Shizune stated. And as I said, you have appointments in the afternoon, so really you need to get them done this morning. I see. Morosely he took the top sheet from the stack and grabbed a pen. Do you suppose there's any chance some huge disaster will take place requiring the Hokage to risk his life for the village? I doubt it, but we can always hope. Sighing, he stamped the first report and put it into the out box. Well, I always said I'd sacrifice myself for the village. XXXXXXXXXX. 12:30. The fire daimyo's wife was sitting across from him. They were both sipping tea and having cookies. Shizune had explained to him that a part of the Hokage's duty was to maintain good terms with local and foreign dignitaries. It's wonderful that you're going to be the next Hokage. I can still remember what a polite young man you were all those times you brought back my sweet little Tora to me. I just know you'll do a fine job. You know, I remember when your father was the Hokage, he was a very polite boy too and always filled with good humor. Of course Sarutobi was also a fine Hokage too, don't get me wrong. He was a bit more formal, but very polite. You know, I remember. Naruto grinned and nodded at the appropriate points and spoke a total of perhaps a dozen words. XXXXXXXXXX. 2 o'clock. I want a real mission. I am tired of D ranks. Konohamaru squatted on the floor and crossed his arms over his chest. A flustered Ebisu waved his arms about in embarrassment. Please forgive my honorable student's disgraceful behavior, Naruto-sama. Konohamaru, stop this. Iruka barked. You know you're still not experienced enough for anything above D ranks. Naruto shook his head and tried to keep a severe look on his face. Oh really, and just why do you deserve something above D rank? Because me and my team have awesome ninja skills and can handle a real mission. Konohamaru declared. Naruto grinned. You really think you have great ninja skills? Of course we do. Naruto nodded. All right, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll give you and your team test. If you pass it, I'll assign you a C rank mission. But if you fail, you're not allowed to complain or ask for another higher rank mission. For at least a month. Deal. It's a deal. Konohamaru jumped to his feet and both his teammates looked excited. What's the test? Naruto pulled out his watch. You must go to Ichiraku's and return here with 5 bowls of miso ramen within 10 minutes starting now. With a blur, 3 genin raced out the meeting room. Ebisu, Shizune, and Iruka were all staring at him. What? Naruto asked innocently. Naruto, what are you thinking? Iruka demanded. I'm thinking I skipped lunch and that cookies and tea aren't enough to fill me up. But what happens if they get back here in time? Shizune asked. Relax, he pulled out a sheet of paper that had been in front of him. There's a C rank to escort a caravan with building supplies to a town just about 50 miles from here. It's as basic and simple a C rank as you'll ever find. And they've done 30 D ranks, they're ready. XXXXXXXXXX. 3:30. Well, it's really troublesome, but I'm here to give my monthly progress report on the Chunin exams. Shikamaru noted lazily. Are we hosting those again? Naruto asked. Shikamaru nodded. In just another month and a half. Well, hopefully these will go a little smoother than the last ones. That's not exactly setting the bar very high. Naruto shrugged. As long as we don't get invaded again, I'll be happy. So how are you and Tamari? Shikamaru quirked an eyebrow. Don't you want to hear about the preparations for the exams? Are there any major problems? No. Fine then, that's all I need to hear. So how are you and Tamari? Shikamaru smirked a bit. She is the most troublesome woman I have ever known, and she manages to constantly turn my life upside down almost on a whim. Naruto grinned. Sounds like you're in love. Shikamaru sighed. I'm afraid so. XXXXXXXXXX. 6:30. Naruto, what are you doing here? As was his habit, Jiraiya leapt in through the window. Oh, hey pervy granddad. The Hokage let me spend the day doing her job. Jiraiya grinned. So let me guess, she was way behind on her paperwork and she got you to do it for her. Yeah, Naruto answered a bit wearily. Say, why is your right arm covered in bandages from the wrist to the shoulder? Oh, that's to give the skin grafts a chance to heal. Skin grafts? Did you get wounded? You might say that. Does Godmother know? Oh yeah, she knows. Jiraiya said flatly. By the way, don't ever make her really angry. Okay. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Anyway, I came by here to give her some news. Is it top secret or something only she can hear? Jiraiya thought about it. I'd best give it to her and she can share if she thinks it's a good idea. XXXXXXXXXX. 7 o'clock. Tsunade came back to her office smelling slightly of sake. Well, Naruto, how did you enjoy your first taste of being Hokage? I can honestly say it's not quite what I expected. He shook his head. I managed to get all the paperwork done. So was this a normal day for you? She nodded. It may have been a little heavy on the paperwork side, but otherwise yes. You know, I remember you in the third always complaining about paperwork, but somehow I didn't really think about it. No one ever does. Believe me, when I first took over it came as a shock how much time I spent chained to my desk. So did you have me stand in for you to let me do all your work for you while you went out drinking? Partially, she answered without feeling guilt. I also wanted you to get a sense of what it was really like to be Hokage. I don't plan on retiring for a few more years yet, but I wanted you to start getting an understanding of what the job really is. 99% of the time this village runs smoothly and you really have nothing of importance to do. It's that one other percent, where you truly earn your pay. When things do not run smoothly and the land is in crisis, it will be your responsibility to set things right. If you are Hokage, then you must always do what is best for Konoha, even when it means putting the people you love in danger. Like you did during the invasion. She nodded. That's right. Speaking of danger. Jiraiya again popped in through the window. What do you want? She asked with a frown. This is for you. He handed her a sealed envelope. It was delivered by special messenger to one of my agents. Tsunade opened the letter and began to read it. As she read it, her frown deepened. Naruto. Yes. You know how I was just talking about the 1% of the time when as Hokage you must make hard decisions. He slowly nodded. Is this one of those times? I'm afraid so, Shizune. Yes, Lady Tsunade. Shizune appeared as if by summoning. Please contact Kakashi, Hinata, and Kiba and have them all report here. She looked to Naruto and Jiraiya. You two stay as well. I'm afraid your work day is not over yet, Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. We are invited to send 4 representatives to the Isle of Torike to participate in open bidding for the secrets of Orochimaru's curse seal. Tsunade read out. Participants must arrive upon the isle by midnight of May 1st and must have in their possession the sum of 100 million ryu in cash along with a signed letter of granting a representative to both negotiate and sign contracts on behalf of the Hokage and the village of Konoha. The bidding shall take place on the 3rd. The parties must hand over the 100 million ryu sum as a sign of good faith. The sum will be returned once the full amount of the winning bid is received. The rules of Torike shall be in full force. Respectfully, Lord Taka. Lord Taka in the Isle of Exchange. Jiraiya muttered. This should be interesting. Who is this Taka and what's this Isle of Exchange? Kiba asked. Lord Taka rules the Isle of Exchange, or the Isle of Torike, about 1200 miles off the coast. It's basically his own private little kingdom. Tsunade smiled fondly. It has some beautiful hotels and casinos. Jiraiya nodded. Yeah, along with a whole lot of banks and his very own private police force of loyal ninja and a modern navy. So he's a casino owner and banker? Kiba asked. In part. Kakashi replied. What he mostly is a middleman. He arranges for exchanges or sale of goods for a commission and in return guarantees security and privacy. He sounds like a criminal. Kiba commented. Oh, he is. Jiraiya confirmed. But he is also lord over all he surveys and a very powerful businessman. He sounds like Gato. Naruto said darkly. Well, the important thing is that he is very powerful and we have to deal with him carefully. If this letter is true and the secrets of the cursed seal are out there for sale, we have to stop our enemies from acquiring it. She sighed and shook her head. How do I explain taking 100 million ryu out of circulation? We're actually going to bring that much cash with us. Naruto said in surprise. I'm afraid we'll have to. There's no way to get on that island without providing it. She looked at the team in front of her. Kakashi, Naruto, Kiba, and Hinata, I am reactivating your squad under the new designation of Team Kakashi. You're being assigned an S-rank mission. Go to the Isle of Torike and determine if the information on the cursed seal really is there. If it is, then I want that information destroyed at all costs. What if we're able to retrieve it? Kakashi asked. I don't want it. Tsunade stated. I've seen what it does to the ninja it's inflicted on. I'm declaring it to be a forbidden jutsu and I want all information on it. Destroyed. Is that clear? They all nodded. Oh, and one more thing, you're leaving with a very large sum of money. Make sure it comes back with you. Jiraiya spoke up. Also keep in mind that there will be other bidders out there, so watch out for them as well. XXXXXXXXXXX. The Tsuchikage waited as his servant entered his study. Yes, Tsuchikage-sama. Takuya bowed to his lord. We have an opportunity to acquire a great new weapon. He handed Takuya the letter he had just received. Select 3 of your best men and so to Torike and acquire the secrets of Orochimaru for Iwa. Steal them if you can, buy them if you must, no price is too high. But we must have this new power whatever the cost. I understand, Tsuchikage-sama. He bowed and began to leave. Takuya. Yes, lord. Do not fail me. He bowed again. I understand, lord. XXXXXXXXXXX. What is it? You know I hate waiting. Their leader ignored his tone. You and your partner are leaving for the Isle of Torike. Why? He grumbled. Are you sending us on a little holiday? It seems Lord Taka has somehow acquired the secrets of the cursed seal. As Orochimaru was once your partner, I thought you might want to clean up this final bit of his mess. Faye, that traitor has been dead for years now and he's still causing trouble. Sasori muttered. The cursed seal might cause unexpected complications later. Go there and destroy all traces of the information. Pain commanded. That could be rather messy. Use your own best judgment as to how to go about it, but I want no trace of this information to remain. I understand, Sasori said and then began to laugh gruffly. Deidre will probably enjoy himself. Chapter 66. Another S-rank mission, Kushina said, clearly unhappy with the news. I was hoping you'd get some time to get used to being in the village again. You've been home a little more than a week and Tsunade got you leaving on another dangerous mission. He tried to give her a reassuring smile. Come on, Mom, I mean, what other kinds of missions would she give me? You know, son, there's nothing wrong with going on a mission that doesn't put your life in jeopardy. I'll be fine, and I'm going with my whole team, so you know things will be alright. Besides, with all my new abilities I can take on anyone. She shook her head and spoke in a lecturing tone. Naruto-kun, that is a very dangerous attitude to have. It's true you've grown much more powerful, but that is nowhere near the same thing as being invincible. Confidence is a good thing, but arrogance is dangerous, and I am afraid that's the direction you're headed towards. I'll be fine, Mom, he said with certainty. After all, I'm not Hokage yet. XXXXXXXXXXX. He was heading towards the gates with Hinata. The two of them walked hand in hand as they had since being children. As they walked, Naruto looked around. The cliff wall had Godmother's face, of course. Other than that, the village hadn't changed much during his absence. As they walked along, people gave him plenty of room. He studied their expressions. A few sent him dirty or angry looks and a few gave him happy smiles. The vast majority just walked well around him without giving away their thoughts. Overall things had improved since he was a child. But he remembered how people had looked at him right after the invasion, when most of them had seen him as a hero. If most people no longer saw him as a monster, they also did not really view him as a hero either. Most seemed willing to just accept him as a part of Konoha. He supposed that was good, but a small part of him wanted to see their approval. He wanted them to cheer him as they had after the invasion. When I am the Rokudaime, they will cheer for me. XXXXXXXXXXX. Before we go anywhere, I have a present for each of you. Naruto told his team at the gates. All the damage from the invasion had been repaired, including the wall and gates. This is your idea of a present? Kiba asked. He looked at the weird kunai. I hate to tell you this, Naruto, but your taste in gifts sucks. Kiba, be nice. Hinata chided. Kakashi took the tri-kunai and looked at it for a moment. I haven't seen one of these in 15 years, Naruto. He spoke quietly. You've really mastered that jutsu, haven't you? Naruto nodded. I have, but it's supposed to stay a secret for now. Only my godmother, Jiraiya, my grand-uncle, Yamato, and the council know about it. The Hokage wants to try and keep it secret as long as possible. I can certainly understand why. He put the tri-kunai away. Hey, what jutsu are you talking about? Kiba asked. Don't worry about it, Kiba, you'll see it eventually, I'm sure. Kakashi informed him and took out a little orange book. Oh, that reminds me. Naruto began to dig through one of his packs. I got another gift just for you, Nisan. Here it is. Kakashi sucked in his breath at the sight of what Naruto held in his hand. Naruto, is that? Naruto nodded with a grin at his Nisan's stunned reaction. It's Pervy Granddad's newest edition. It has even been signed and won't be available in stores for another month. Kakashi eagerly took the book and carefully opened it to page 1. He sighed happily, it even had that new book smell. Naruto, have I ever told you you're my favorite student? Hey! Kiba shouted and Akamaru began to bark. XXXXXXXXXXX. It took them 3 days to reach the coast. There a speedy yacht waited for them. Boarding, they spent an additional 4 days on the ocean, giving them a bit of free time. XXXXXXXXXXX. I'll see your 5 million and raise you 10 million more. Naruto said and tossed in stacks of Ryu notes. Oh yeah. Kiba shoved his entire pile into the space between them. Well, I'm all in. Fine. Naruto shoved a fortune into the middle as well. Let's see 'em. I got a pair of 8s. Kiba declared. No good. Naruto smiled, laying down his cards. I have 3 4s. Huh. He stared at the small mountain of cash. Want to split it up and play again? Naruto shrugged. Sure, why not? XXXXXXXXXXX. Hinata and Naruto were alone in his cabin. Naruto-kun, she pulled his hands down. Oh come on, Hinata-chan, please. He gave her the puppy dog eyes. She grinned and shook her head. Your hands don't get to go there until I'm your wife. But that's not for a whole year yet. He complained. She laughed. Sorry Naruto-kun, but I'm just not that kind of girl. She leaned in and kissed him again. Once we're married though, we can do all sorts of things. She purred evilly and made his heart race. Hey, maybe we can get married while we're on the island. She laughed and kissed him again. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kiba, what are you doing? Hinata asked. What? Why are you on the floor rolling around on the money? Well, when am I ever going to do this again? Kakashi sighed. Put the money back in the chest, Kiba. XXXXXXXXXXX. When they were about 50 miles from their destination, they picked up a shadow. A squat gray shadow with 2 square turrets and a pair of long cannons sticking out of each. On a mast above the bridge on the back of the ship, a white flag with a golden hawk could be seen. One of Lord Taka's gunships. Kakashi said blandly. One of those cannon can blow us out of the water at about 3,000 yards. They're the most powerful ships afloat. It doesn't look that impressive. Naruto stated. What those guns can do is impressive. Kakashi replied. Huh. With my lightning fang I could tear right through it. Kiba declared. Only if you get close enough to use your jutsu. Kakashi shut his book with a snap. All right, we'll be docking in less than an hour. It's time for us to go over the rules of Torike. Since we'll be in a foreign country, we'll be expected to follow them. First off, the ninjas on the island are considered not only the police force but judge and jury as well and have the right to kill anyone at any time. What? Kiba shouted. Kakashi simply nodded. Like our own Anbu, they consider themselves to be the personal weapons of Lord Taka, and like their lord they are a law unto themselves. They have the right to kill anyone without fear of repercussion. A few minor lords have discovered this to their sorrow. How can they do that? Naruto asked. Just kill someone for no reason. Oh, they have reason, and so long as their lord approves they don't have to worry about any sort of law. On the Isle of Torike, Lord Taka is the law. Now with that in mind, there are certain rules that we will be expected to follow. Breaking any of which may lead to being attacked. What sort of rules? Naruto asked. First off, illusion jutsus are strictly forbidden. That means no genjutsu and no henge. They don't like people being disguised. So they'll kill you for having a henge. Naruto asked incredulously. Kakashi nodded. They're very serious about knowing just who is on their island. Secondly, we are not to attack any of Lord Taka's people or any of our competitors for any reason. Other than that, there's not too much you can't do on Torike. It's a place of business but also a legendary playground for those who can afford it. Gambling, prostitution, and drug use are all perfectly legal there. They're a drinking age? Kiba asked eagerly. No, Kakashi replied sternly. But we'll need to keep our wits about us at all times. So do not get yourself in a drunken stupor. XXXXXXXXXXX. As they continued to approach the island, 2 other vessels as well as 2 more gunships came into view. One of the other boats had the flag of the rock village while the other lacked any sort of insignia. Looks like our competition, Naruto muttered. Damn rock nins. I wonder who the other ones are. Kiba said. Likely representatives of one of the other great powers. Kakashi said. I doubt Lord Taka would even bother contacting the lesser villages. They don't have the necessary financial reserves. Do keep in mind though that we may have more competition waiting for us. XXXXXXXXXXX. It was not long before the smudge on the horizon came clearly into view. The Isle of Torike was not a large place. It was a strip of rock only a few feet above the ocean. It was about 3 miles long and perhaps half a mile wide at its thickest. Every possible inch of space seemed to be crammed with buildings and with tiny streets separating them. Many of the buildings were huge ornate structures rivaling anything to be found on the mainland. The most important buildings, government offices, private palaces, banks, casinos, and hotels had been built from pristine white marble. In the sunlight they seemed to almost shine. By comparison, most of the rest of the buildings seemed to be tiny one-story shacks put together with bits of wood and brick and whatever else was available. It wasn't hard to see where the money was. Along half the water's edge were long wooden piers stretching out into the ocean. Nearly every one of which had a variety of ships tied to it. Vast yachts were tied next to humble freighters and simple sailing boats. Despite the lateness of the day, there was plenty of activity as goods and people made their way in and out. The very last pier had been left noticeably empty, and it was towards this one that their ship began to move. Naruto noted that along with the 3 gunships acting as escorts, there were half a dozen more in the bay simply riding at anchor. Their yacht was soon tied to the dock and Team Kakashi had exited. Kiba rode the back of Akamaru with the chest sitting in front of him. The other delegates also exited their boats with chests presumably filled with cash. Out of the ship with the Iwa standard came 4 ninjas, none of whom Naruto recognized. Out of the other ship came 2 ninjas with black robes with red clouds on them. One was a squat bulky man with black hair and a black handkerchief around his face. The other was a tall, rather effeminate-looking blonde fellow. Naruto did not recognize either of them but recognized their clothing. They're Akatsuki. Naruto growled and instinctively grabbed for his sword. Kakashi swiftly got a hold of his wrist and kept him from pulling it out. Naruto, no. This isn't Konoha, you can't attack them. The commotion did not go unnoticed and the 2 Akatsuki members approached them. Yeah, is there a problem here? Deidre asked amused. You're with Akatsuki, Naruto accused. You work with that traitor Itachi. Uchiha Itachi is a member of our organization. The blocky fellow answered with a deep and gravelly voice. Why is that a concern to you? No reason. Kakashi quickly answered. He sent Naruto a look pleading for him to remain quiet. Naruto ignored it. Itachi has come after me and the next time I see him I'm going to kill him instead of just taking his arm. Kakashi groaned and Hinata and Kiba both looked a bit worried. The blocky Akatsuki member lowered his eyes to Naruto's right hand. Their Itachi's ring was clearly visible. I see, Sasori replied. So you are the Kyuubi. I am not the Kyuubi. My name is Namikaze Naruto, future Hokage of Konoha. Our interest in you has nothing to do with the office of Hokage. Sasori spoke. The concern of Akatsuki begins and ends with the nine-tailed demon fox you currently possess. Yeah, Deidre said eagerly. Maybe we'll have time for a little side project. Sasori sent his partner a firm look. Our assignment does not involve retrieving the nine-tail. We will handle our assignment. I have no intention of doing Itachi's work for him. With that, the two of them headed down the pier. The Iowa Nins had viewed the entire display and themselves began down the pier without comment, though some hard looks were directed Naruto's way. Naruto, Kakashi spoke in a tight voice once the rock Nins were past. Why did you feel the need to tell them who you are? They likely would have found out regardless, but there was no reason to help enlighten them. Naruto took on a stubborn look. I hate those bastards and I wanted them to know it. Kakashi sighed. Hate them by all means, Naruto, but you should have done so silently and anonymously. Especially since we can't fight them here. There was nothing to be gained by showing them such open hostility. No need to worry, sensei, I can handle them if I need to. Kakashi eyed him with real concern. Naruto, I realize you're a lot stronger now. Particularly if you know that jutsu, but you need to watch this tendency you seem to have of showing off. If you're not careful, you'll eventually bite off more than you can chew. Naruto grinned. Don't worry, I can deal with anything that comes. XXXXXXXXXXX. At the end of the pier, Lord Taka waited with 50 of his ninja. He and all of his ninja wore crests with a golden hawk in flight. In short order, the money was all counted and the letters of authorization were all confirmed. As servants hauled away 3 chests, glasses of champagne were produced. I welcome all of you to my home and invite you to enjoy yourselves and caution you to not break any of the laws here. Lord Taka spoke warmly with a glass already in his hand. I have arranged suites for all of you and trust you will enjoy your stay here. The bidding shall take place at noon in the grand hall of my palace. Until then you are all free to do as you like. XXXXXXXXXXX. As they entered their hotel suite, Naruto looked around and smiled. Wow, this is nice. Hinata nodded. Do you want to do anything tonight? Naruto sent her a questioning look and she started to giggle. Not that. Naruto slowly smiled. You know, Hinata-chan, there is something I've always wanted to do. What's that, Naruto-kun? Well, I've always wanted to stroll into a casino with a beautiful woman on my arm. Hinata smiled and felt her heartbeat quicken just a bit. That sounds like it might be fun, Naruto-kun. XXXXXXXXXXX. What do we do about the Namikaze? One of the Iwa Anbu asked. Nothing. Takuya replied evenly. Nothing. Takuya nodded. We will not jeopardize our current mission solely to pursue revenge on him. But, Takuya gave his men a sharp look. He was not used to being questioned. We will do nothing that puts this mission in jeopardy. Is that clear? He was answered with sullen nods. Feelings were still very strong even after more than a year, but they would obey him. For Takuya that was enough. XXXXXXXXXXX. Sasori activated his astral projection jutsu and sent his consciousness thousands of miles away. Before his eyes the suite melted away to be replaced by an open road somewhere. Itachi. Uchiha Itachi halted and looked at the image in surprise. Yes, what is it that you want? I have some information you might find interesting. Chapter 67. This feels weird. Hinata smiled. Oh, don't worry, Naruto-kun, you look very handsome. It just feels strange to be walking around out in public without my sword or body armor. When he had mentioned wanting to go to a casino, Hinata had gone off on a short shopping trip. He was dressed in a white suit while she had on a slinky black evening gown. He still had his radio communicator and they both had a few kunai on them, just in case. Konoha had no casinos or anything remotely similar. Stepping through massive oak doors they entered a different world. The light was overwhelming, almost blinding. The air was heavy with cigar smoke and perfume. There were loud excited shouts as well as the constant noise of slot machines and of dealers crying out. Most of the patrons kept their eyes focused on the games they were playing, but a few looked up and stared a bit. People are looking at us. Hinata noted. But Naruto merely grinned at the beautiful girl that was on his arm. No, Hinata-chan, they're looking at you. A beautiful woman always draws attention. She blushed a bit and smiled. Arigato Naruto-kun. From where they were they could see a vast ocean of blinking slot machines. Those didn't interest Naruto. It took a minute but he finally spotted what he was looking for further back. Come on Hinata-chan. He led the way into the crowd. XXXXXXXXXXX. Lord Taka sipped his champagne and tried to keep the smile from his lips. He looked at his guest. That is a very interesting offer, but I am afraid I shall have to decline it. Takuya set his own glass down. May I respectfully ask why? I would think my offer an excellent one, 200 million ryu for the secrets you possess. Surely you do not expect to make more than that. Ah, but you see that is the wonderful thing about the open market. Only when a commodity is made available for all can one learn what it is truly worth. Takuya shook his head. The Akatsuki are criminals and certainly have not come here to bargain in good faith. As for the contingent from Konoha, you surely realize that the presence of the Namikaze is no accident. Their Hokage undoubtedly plans to take the secrets by force. That is, if they are not first stolen by the Akatsuki. Lord Taka took another sip. I have over 100 ninja here to protect what is mine. Takuya immediately began to laugh. Have I said something funny? You have never dealt with S-rank ninja before, have you? It was not really a question. I met Tsunade once a few years before she became Hokage. Lord Taka smiled at the memory. She ran up a 6-figure bill. It was paid in full a short time after she skipped out. Yes, well, Tsunade was inactive back then and trying to avoid trouble. Neither of which applies to the 3 S-rank ninjas you have in your midst currently. I happen to have seen both Naruto and Deidara in action. Believe me, 100 ordinary ninja are no match for them. Your best course of action would be to accept my offer and allow me to depart immediately with the information. Once they realize it is no longer in your possession, you will be safe. Lord Taka shook his head amused. My dear sir, I have dealt with powerful men of all sorts before, including powerful ninja. I can deal with these as well. Takuya shook his head. You have no idea. He stood up. Well, I have made my offer to you. Should you change your mind, contact me at any time. Lord Taka waited patiently as his guest was escorted from his palace. You can come out now. From one of the many bedrooms connected to the grand hall, a nervous Karen strode out. You turned him down. What's wrong with you? We will get more if we leave everything up to auction. Trust me. She shook her head. After my time with Orochimaru, I know just how truly dangerous powerful ninjas can be. If there are 3 of them here, I want no part of it. I didn't risk my life to escape Orochimaru just to get killed now. I say accept the offer. No, Lord Taka answered flatly. Do not forget that it was I who funded your further research that allowed you to create a viable curse seal without the use of Orochimaru's DNA. We are equal partners in this matter and I say we shall go ahead. Aren't you worried what they might end up doing? Karen asked. I have dealt with ninja before. He waved the problem away. Karen frowned. She knew from painful experience that some ninjas were dangerous on an entirely different level than most. She had nearly died once before and had no intention of risking her life again. I want out. Lord Taka looked at her in surprise. Now, when you are about to finally receive a massive fortune, you can't spend it if you're dead. Pay me for my share and let me get out of here. You can do whatever you want with the information. Lord Taka considered it. Very well, I'll give you 5 million and you can leave immediately if you like. 5. Who the hell are you trying to fool? You just had an offer for 200. That means my share is worth 100 million. There are always heavy penalties when you try to cash in an investment before its date of maturity. If you want the full value of your labors, you will have to remain until the auction is complete. The question is, just how badly do you wish to leave before that time? She seriously thought about staying. This was her life's work after all, and not too many people would easily walk away from the sort of money that was at stake. The problem was she'd learned to trust her survival instinct. Right now it was telling her not just to go but to run. 5 million was still a hell of a lot of money. And you could live a hell of a comfortable life on it. Karen nodded, her decision made. All right. Lord Taka grinned. He had honestly never thought the brilliant scientist to be a sucker, but she was. She was letting her weak nerves steer her into a ridiculous financial decision. But that was fine, all the more for him. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto was sitting at the poker table with a large stack of chips and Hinata standing behind him and rubbing his shoulders. He had originally brought 10,000 Ryu with him. After about 2 hours of playing he had over 20,000 sitting in front of him. My Naruto-kun, I think you've discovered your true calling. Maybe you should stop being a ninja and be a professional gambler. Hinata teased. Don't joke about that, Hinata-chan. When I was growing up my godmother was always trying to talk my mom letting her bring me to a casino with her. Is that why you're so good at this? Well, my godmother and granddad both say I have good gambling instincts. As they watched, a new player sat down at the table. He was a teenager with sharp red hair and a calm look to him. Sitting down, his eyes were focused on Naruto. Naruto noticed and looked back at the stranger. The only thing Naruto had on that showed he was a ninja was his Hite. Do you mind if I join the game? The redhead asked. He began putting a large number of chips down on the table. Not at all, Naruto replied. My name is Stalos, I am a merchant from Wind Country. Sasori said as the dealer dealt out the cards. Naruto nodded politely. My name is Naruto and this beautiful lady is Hinata. I am pleased to meet you. Hinata stated. I see you both wear the leaf Hittites. Are you both ninja? Naruto nodded. Here on a little vacation. Actually, Naruto began. Yes we are. Hinata answered. She gave Naruto a cautious look. Sasori grinned a bit. He thought this might just be interesting. XXXXXXXXXX. They had continued to play for over an hour. Stalos regaled them with exotic stories about the Grand Bazaar of Suna where almost anything could be found and where you could haggle with the merchants. Naruto gladly told him about some of his own recent travels. As they played, the other players dropped out, leaving only them and the dealer at the table. Naruto had won most of the hands and had slowly reduced the number of chips in front of the redhead. Naruto appreciated the good humor his opponent kept even as he lost his money. I need to go to the little girl's room. Hinata whispered to Naruto. He merely nodded and eyed his hand. Seeing her leave, Sasori thought he had an opportunity. Do you know, I have been planning to do some business in Fire Country. Tell me, what port would you recommend I visit to begin with? Nagamo, Naruto answered offhandedly as he tossed a couple chips into open. Really? But Yokosuka is the largest port. Oh, Yokosuka is a great city too, don't get me wrong. I just think Nagamo is a little more interesting. Have you been there anytime recently? Stalos asked innocently as he discarded a pair of cards. Just a few days ago, as a matter of fact. Stalos nodded and had no trouble hiding his pleasure. Is there any particular hotel you'd recommend? The only hotel there I'm really familiar with is the Flying Crane, and it's really nothing that special. Oh, I am certain that will be just fine. He tossed in the remainder of his chips. I call. He dropped his cards to reveal a pair of eights. Naruto looked at him in surprise as he scooped up the pot. You called on such a weak hand. Stalos got up and bowed. Ah, but I suppose I am a poor player. Good night to you, Naruto. When Hinata returned a moment later, she found Naruto as the only one at the table besides the dealer. Did you finally scare him off? She asked playfully. Yeah, but only after I got all his money. You know, Hinata-chan, maybe I really should become a gambler. I mean, I made 20,000 Ryu in a few hours and I didn't even have anyone throw a kunai at me. Hinata smiled and wrapped her arms around him. Well, before you decide to become a cute young male version of Lady Tsunade, why don't you take me dancing first? There's a dance club not too far from here and it has been a long time since you've danced with me. Sounds good, Hinata-chan. XXXXXXXXXX. The following morning was one of the very few times when Kakashi was the first one to be up. Naruto and Hinata were both still in their beds asleep after being out all night dancing. Kiba had been in the hotel bar trying to meet some girls and trying out various hard liquors. Kiba had already gotten into the habit of drinking a bit. In Konoha the drinking age was 18. But as with many other things, the rule was different for those who wore the Hite. Kakashi wasn't sure just how much Kiba had wound up drinking, but he was sure that he would regret it whenever he finally woke up. After being stuck on the boat so long, Kakashi had given his team one night to relax and enjoy themselves. Tomorrow was the auction and the mission would begin in earnest. He would give them until this afternoon to rest and recover. But he'd found a dojo where they would get some practice in this afternoon. Currently he was sitting down at a small outdoor cafe enjoying a light breakfast and rereading his new book. He wanted to see how Teiko dealt with the twin model sisters whose carriage had just broken down. They had just started complaining about their wet clothes when Kakashi felt a powerful chakra signature and looked up to see the blonde effeminate Akatsuki member approaching his table. "Mind if I join you, yeah?" Deidara asked. Carefully closing and putting away his book, Kakashi nodded. "Please do." He pointed to the seat across from his. "You do know that were you to attack me in public it would be a capital offense." Deidara sat down and smiled. "Yeah, too bad, I could make your death a true work of art. I trust you also know that all of us are being watched." Kakashi said offhandedly. "Yeah, well unless they have every table in this place bugged we can talk for a little bit. What do you want to talk about?" "Yeah, me and my partner want to let you know that you and your team need to get out of here." Kakashi lifted an eyebrow. "Well, I have to say that's the politest threat I've ever received. But I'm afraid our orders are quite clear. We will not allow the curse seal to fall into your hands or those of anyone else." Deidara laughed. "We don't want it. We Akatsuki are sort of an exclusive bunch. Having a horde of overpowered and half-crazed drones isn't really our thing. It figures you leaf nins want it. We don't want it, but we won't let it fall into anyone else's hands." Deidara and Kakashi looked at one another for a moment. "Yeah, you really think I'm going to believe you leaf nins don't want something that will make you more powerful? Not when that power comes at the cost of your sanity. Not to mention the little fact it kills 90% of those who get infected." Kakashi shook his head. "And you expect me to believe a known terrorist when he says his criminal organization has no interest in it?" "Yeah, well the fact is we don't. What we do have an interest in is the health of the Kyuubi." Kakashi sent the man a cold look backed by just a little killer intent. "His name is Naruto, don't insult him by calling him Kyuubi." Deidara chuckled. "Yeah, whatever, the thing is we need Naruto to stay alive and well until we can harvest him." Kakashi's one visible eye flattened and his killer intent ratcheted up a couple notches. "Harvest him? Yeah, we're going to yank the Kyuubi right out of him, which will kill him of course." Deidara noticed the killer intent rising again. "We have plans for its chakra and the chakra of all the Biju." "What sort of plans?" "Yeah, like I'm going to tell you. Actually like the other members of Akatsuki." He did not know exactly what his leader had in mind. "But for right now at least it seems we have some common goals. Don't go to the auction tomorrow. I'm going to make it a real work of art. XXXXXXXXXXX." Kakashi and his team were walking along the beach admiring the sunset and having a quiet talk. "Nissan, are you crazy? You expect us to trust these bastards? We're not going to trust them blindly," Kakashi said as he looked over the book. "We'll make sure their intention really is to destroy the information rather than steal it. However, if that is what they have in mind we will not interfere." "Pardon me Kakashi-sensei," Hinata spoke up as she and Naruto walked hand in hand. "But what if Naruto-kun is right? How can we work with them when we know what they want to do with Naruto-kun?" Her voice had an edge to it. Hearing it, Naruto looked over to her and gave her hand a little squeeze. "Hinata, I am not saying that these two aren't the enemy. All I am saying is that for the moment at least our goals are the same and we can use them in order to complete our mission successfully." They walked a bit more. "Now here is what I have in mind. XXXXXXXXXXX." The following day at noon the three groups were escorted to the grand palace of Lord Taka. In the great hall of his home Lord Taka smiled at them. No less than 50 of his ninja were on hand to provide security. He was not a fool to think there was no danger. But with so many of his ninja at hand he thought the risks to be reasonable. "Gentlemen," he spoke in a friendly and eager tone. "I thank you for your interest in the one item I have available today. Your presence here speaks well of both your wisdom and resources. The villages of Lightning and Mist were both also invited but declined to come. Surely your foresight will be well rewarded in the near future and provide more than adequate compensation for the monetary sacrifice that." "Enough," an annoyed Sasori called out in his gravelly voice. "I detest being kept waiting. We all know the reason that we are here. Let us begin." Seeing nods all around, Lord Taka reached into a pouch and pulled out a plastic case with a single disc inside. "This gentleman contains all the information relating to Orochimaru's curse seal. including a method of creating a curse seal without Orochimaru's involvement. Whoever is the high bidder shall win for their village or organization a great new source of power. And the knowledge will be theirs exclusively. How are we to be sure of that? Sasori demanded. Lord Taka was hardly offended. Gentlemen, my reputation should be all the guarantee you need. I am well aware of the value of security and privacy. Besides this disc I hold in my hand, the information is kept in the computer system in this palace. It exists nowhere else. Once the final bid is accepted, I shall hand over the disc and completely wipe my computer system, thus ensuring the owner exclusivity. I think he's telling the truth. Kakashi noted. Yeah, me too. Deidara agreed. In that case, can we finally begin? Takuya asked. Yes, Sasori agreed. Let us begin. He looked to his partner. Do not keep me waiting long. His image became sand and spread out over the floor. Kakashi looked over to his team. Naruto. Right. Naruto disappeared in a puff of smoke. XXXXXXXXXX. On board their yacht, Naruto looked over to his team. They had managed to sneak back unobserved while shadow clones took their place. It's starting. I'll be right back. Without hand signs, he disappeared in a golden flash. Captain, we'll be going now. Kakashi said calmly. Yes, sir. The ship's captain began barking out orders and the engines began coming to life. You do know, sir, that while we're a bit faster than the gunships there, cannon will have us in a range for some time and we can't outrun the shells. Don't worry, we have something in mind for that. Kakashi said. Kiba puffed out his chest. Right. With my lightning fang, me and Akamaru will totally take those ships apart. Actually, Kiba, I was thinking of a certain jutsu of Naruto's. XXXXXXXXXXX. What is the meaning of this? Lord Taka demanded. With a wave of his hand, 50 ninjas closed in around them. I told you to accept my offer. Takuya said resignedly. As Lord Taka watched Deidara's form change to gray clay. Oh yeah, let me show all of you that art is a. Too late, the people in the hall realized they were in trouble. Bang. XXXXXXXXXXX. There was a yellow flash and Naruto appeared again wearing a huge smile. Kakashi looked at him in surprise. How did it go? Pretty much as you expected, Nisan. The chest was in a vault somewhere and since I'd put a seal on it, the Hiraishin took me straight to it. They heard a huge explosion. Along with the explosion, Kakashi received the memory of his shadow clone and Naruto the memories of the two clones that had been playing as Kiba and Hinata. Well, it looks like they really did want the information destroyed. Kakashi said. I guess, Naruto muttered. I still don't trust them. Neither do I, Naruto. Kakashi said. But it would have been foolish to refuse to use such a valuable resource. They all lurched as the yacht pulled away from the dock and headed out to sea as fast as their engines could take them. Hey Naruto, Kiba asked. Where's the chest? Smiling, he pulled out a scroll and spread it on the floor. Release. In a puff of smoke, the chest they'd brought with them appeared. Along with two others. You got all three? Kiba exclaimed. Yeah, Naruto said proudly. Great job, Naruto. You've just done the village quite a service. Kakashi beamed. There were a couple small booms as ahead of them 2 geysers of water burst. We have a problem. The captain called out. One of the gunships has opened fire on us. XXXXXXXXXX. What had been a magnificent marble palace only a moment before was a smoking crater now. Circling high above in a large clay bird, Deidara could hear the faint echoes of people screaming in panic. Yeah, come on Master Sasori, will you finally admit the wonder of my art? His blocky partner was riding just behind him. You are a child that just likes simple momentary thrills. True art lasts forever, is a joy forever. Deidara stuck a hand into a case filled with clay. In short order, the mouth within his hand spat out 5 small clay birds. Deidara tossed them out and watched as they expanded and sped earthwards. What are you doing? Sasori asked. With such a magnificent canvas before me, how can I not make more art? He thrilled to see 5 more marble building explode and collapse. Fresh screams filled the air. Yeah, now that's art. You really are a child. Sasori muttered. While looking below, he noticed the scene in the harbor as 9 gunships began to swarm and close in on the yacht from Fire Country. It seems we may have to intervene to save the Kyuubi. Before Deidara could reply, they saw something stir just beneath the waves. XXXXXXXXXX. The yacht turned with all its might as explosions and geysers of water seemed to surround them. All 9 of the gunships were moving in to cut off any escape. If you're going to do something, do it now. A terrified captain cried out. Naruto, are you sure your jutsu can deal with this? Kakashi asked just a bit nervously. Probably. Kakashi gawked at him. Naruto shrugged as he bit down on his thumb. Well, technically I've never actually used it before. Kakashi stared at him, jaw hanging open beneath his mask. Oh come on, have faith in your future Hokage. He began to quickly run through a long series of hand signs. Summoning of the Kraken. He slammed his hand down on the deck. XXXXXXXXXXX. The water in the bay suddenly grew choppy and rough as all the ships were tossed about. Then from all around 8 massive tentacles began to rise up out of the ocean. They were massive, rising hundreds of feet into the air and wide enough to triple the length of any of the ships. There were screams just at the very sight. The gunships began to turn and a couple redirected their aim and fired at the massive tentacles. There was an explosion on the fleshy side of one of the arms. The flesh was torn and some blood began to rain down. Compared to the mass of the arm, the wound seemed little more than a pinprick. But the water stirred and all the tentacles began to wave as if in reaction to pain. Down they came, slamming into the sea and into the gunships. With a shredding sound, Naruto watched as the most powerful ships in the world were crushed like empty soda cans. A few sailors had gotten away and were in the water swimming for all they were worth. Eager not to let such tasty morsels escape, the suckers on the underside latched on and pulled them down into the churning water. 2 of the gunships had avoided the first encounter and were both turning around and trying to make it to open sea. Each was grabbed by a tentacle, not to be crushed but rather hauled up out of the water. As Naruto watched what seemed like a gigantic bird's beak burst up out of the waves. From beneath this beak a monstrous body arose up out of the water. The monster's flesh was pink and they could see vast veins pulsing just beneath the skin. A single yellow eye rose above the sea. It turned and focused on Naruto and he knew that it would have eagerly devoured him as well. 2 tentacles took hold of each of the remaining boats and tore them roughly in half. Then the tentacles began to shake them. Out of the ruined boats came debris and bits and pieces of metal, furniture, and living men. The men howled in mortal terror as they fell into the waiting mouth beneath them. The beak opened wide and then snapped shut, eagerly consuming them. XXXXXXXXXX. Naruto-kun, that's enough. Hinata cried out. Stop it. Nodding, Naruto ended the jutsu. With the Kraken's sudden disappearance, the water rushed into the now empty space and the yacht was tossed about. XXXXXXXXXXX. Yeah, now that was impressive. Deidara said. Sasori could only nod. It's almost a shame, I would love to hollow him out and make him a puppet. Yeah, well, you can always keep him as a souvenir if you want. Now let's get going. The bird circled once more and then began the long journey back to the coast. XXXXXXXXXX. The trip back to their original starting point of Nagama was quiet and uneventful. It was near dark when they finally returned. All right, we'll get a good night's rest and then head back home early in the morning, Kakashi announced. His team met the decision with happy agreement, glad to finally be off the boat and back on dry land. XXXXXXXXXXX. Late that night, Naruto was awoken by the ringing of a telephone. Half awake, he groped around the nightstand before finally grabbing it. Hello, he muttered into the receiver. An Anbu messenger. A special message just for me. He suddenly felt himself to be far more awake. I'll be right down. Naruto quickly got dressed. This was certainly unusual, but he liked the idea of his godmother sending a special message for only him. Maybe it's a special mission too dangerous for anyone but me. XXXXXXXXXX. Down in the hotel lobby, he received a note with a location only a few blocks from the hotel. Though it was past midnight, he got moving with all his usual energy. Reaching the specified street corner, he spotted the Anbu standing on a rooftop. He leapt up to the roof to face the man in the owl mask. So what's the? He recognized the chakra signature. He suddenly leapt back and pulled out his katana. You. Too late, Naruto-kun. A calm voice spoke as red eyes locked onto his blue ones. Chapter 68. Naruto had faced the Sharingan many times before while sparring with his Nissan. He'd faced Itachi once before and defeated him, though with help. He had even faced the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan in his final battle with Sasuke. All of this had led Naruto to believe that the Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan, while certainly powerful, were not deserving of their fearsome reputations. Unfortunately, he was about to discover something he should have already known. As a 5th-level blade master, he could do things with his katana that a novice could not even imagine. That same vast gulf also existed between novice and master users of the Mangekyo. He began to understand this as he felt his body being pulled into a dark nightmarish realm and could nothing to stop it. One moment he had been on the roof of a building in Nagamo about to fight. The next he was naked and bent over in a 3-foot-tall iron cage. In the Tsukuyomi dreamscape I completely control time, space, and even all substance. Within this realm I am truly a god. Itachi's calm disembodied voice seemed to come from everywhere. Naruto grabbed the bars and desperately tried to snap them. He could not form a Rasengan or focus chakra into his hand, he couldn't even seem to feel his chakra. There was something about being in a cage that just filled him with a mad panic. He shook the bars and threw his shoulder against them, all to no effect. "Let me out of here. You killed my foolish little brother." The disembodied voice continued in that calm even strain. "It seems only fitting that I do the same with a member of your family." Suddenly a woman appeared before him, kneeling with bent over. She brought her head and her eyes looked into his with a quiet strength and a love that would never fade. "Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you." "Mom." He knew this wasn't real. He told himself again and again it was nothing but a genjutsu. But the sight of his mother seemed as real to him as the iron bars he was gripping. And before his eyes Itachi appeared, standing directly behind her, a sword raised above his head. "No. Mom, run. Itachi, don't f-sharp and king touch her or I'll kill you." Naruto howled and threw his body against the cage, suddenly beyond frantic. Neither Itachi nor his mother seemed to hear him. With a smooth and ideal grace Itachi brought the blade down and severed Kushina's neck as Naruto could only watch. Her head came off as neat as you could please and the blood gushed from the neck as her body tumbled over. Naruto howled as he felt his heart and soul being ripped from him. He felt hot tears and his throat choking. "Moon," he wailed in despair. Itachi watched and simply nodded, satisfied. "I will spend 72 hours torturing you. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds still remaining." Suddenly his mom was alive again and kneeling before him. "Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you." The words were spoken in that gentle voice that had always comforted him and made him feel safe. He tried to shut his eyes this time. This is a damn lie. It's an illusion. It's not real. Though his eyes were closed, he heard the sickening sound of metal cutting flesh and bone. He heard a body tumble to the ground and a head bounce in the dirt. Despite his eyes being shut, the memory was already burned into his mind. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds still remaining. Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you. Stop it. Please, I'll do anything but stop. His eyes were open and he saw the sword come down and cut into his mother's neck. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes and 57 seconds still remaining. Naruto-kun, I am so proud of you, my son. I love you. XXXXXXXXXXX. Some things in life were difficult to endure even once. When such an event repeated itself thousands of times, with each repetition seeming real, it was more than even the strongest will could bear. XXXXXXXXXXX. It took only a few seconds of real time and his technique was completed. Itachi watched as Naruto stiffened. His katana slipped out of a slack hand. He pitched forward without making a sound. Itachi caught him and carefully set him down on the roof. He quickly checked Naruto's pulse and breathing to make sure the Tsukuyomi had not done more than he'd wanted it to. Itachi nodded. His vital signs were strong, even if his mind was now shattered. Itachi discarded the mask and robe that had been his disguise. He had decided not to use a henge in order to increase the odds of bringing Naruto close to him. It had worked. Gently Itachi removed the ring on Naruto's right hand and returned it to his own. You are truly a worthy adversary, Naruto-kun. Feel no shame in the fact that you were defeated in a single move. The mere fact I was required to resort to it speaks highly of you. He picked Naruto up and with great care put him over one shoulder. I bear you no ill will, Naruto-kun, neither for my arm or for Sasuke. You have become a truly powerful ninja and I respect you. I do regret that you shall meet your end not in battle but as a mere tool at the hands of my organization. However, to deliver you is the supreme order given unto me by the Akatsuki." With a simple gesture he and Naruto were gone. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. A few miles outside the city Itachi met his former partner and his current one. "I see it went well," Kabuto said with a friendly smile. He was standing in his black cloak with red clouds. "I notice you managed to keep your arm this time." Kisame chuckled. "Hey, you even got your ring back." Itachi simply nodded, being in no mood to talk. "We need to move quickly. Once they learn his fate, Konoha will surely mount a rescue attempt." He looked at Kisame in his black shirt and pants, his bandaged sword still on his back. "I require your assistance until the operation is complete. Once we have harvested the Kyuubi, your debt to me shall be fully paid." Kisame nodded. "Sure thing." They all got moving at top speed through the trees. Itachi continued to carry Naruto. "What do we do if his team manages to track us?" Kabuto asked in a cheerful voice. "If that happens, we will deal with them." It was all Itachi would say. They had a good many hours until dawn and covered quite a lot of ground. XXXXXXXXXXX. It was 8 in the morning. Hinata checked her appearance once more in the mirror. She had showered, dressed, brushed her teeth, and combed her hair. Satisfied with her appearance, she grabbed her backpack off the bed and left her hotel room. She went a couple doors down to Naruto's room. She knocked. "Naruto-kun, it's 8. Are you ready for breakfast yet?" That was the normal routine. She would grab Naruto and then Kiba. The three of them would have breakfast at the time Kakashi had told them to. Then around 10 Sensei would finally show up to eat. Then once he had eaten they would finally be ready to leave. As she stood in the hall waiting for a response, she began to frown. Naruto being a little late was hardly unusual. But normally he would be shouting he needed to take a quick shower or was still getting dressed and needed a minute. He didn't usually sleep in unless he'd been out all night. She knocked again, just a little more loudly. "Naruto-kun, are you awake? Are you ready for breakfast?" Still there was no answer. She frowned a bit more. Something about the silence from his room bothered her. She was sure it was nothing, but still, Byakugan. She immediately saw that his hotel room was empty. She at once checked to see if he was with Kiba or Kakashi. Kiba was dressed and ready. Kakashi-sensei was still in bed. She checked the hotel lobby and cafe, only to find he was not there either. She expanded her field of vision and did a quick scan in a 2-mile radius. Unfortunately, being in a big city with so many people made it difficult to spot any one specific individual. Now starting to feel really worried, she activated her radio. "Naruto-kun, this is Hinata-chan, where are you?" She set her radio back to receive and waited. There was only silence. She forced herself to wait a full minute before sending out another message. "Naruto-kun, if you can hear me, please respond." Kiba had heard the same message over his radio and came out of his room. "What's going on, Hinata-chan? Naruto-kun is missing." There was worry lacing her voice. "He's not in his room and I don't know where he is." Seeing she was really worried, he gave her a calming grin. "Relax, Hinata-chan, knowing Naruto, he probably woke up early and decided to do some sword training." She considered it and slowly nodded. "Maybe. I noticed his sword and gear are gone, but he left behind his backpack." "Well, there you go. I'm sure that's it. But why wouldn't he answer my call? Naruto would never ignore a radio call from one of us." Kiba's confident grin faded a bit. "That's true," he admitted. He sniffed the air. "Well, I'm sure he's fine, but if you want we can go track him down. He left a good strong trail." Hinata nodded instantly. "Yes, let's go find Naruto-kun. You want to wake sensei?" "No, let him sleep for now." XXXXXXXXXXX. The trail led them to a rooftop only a few blocks from the hotel. She spotted it instantly. "Oh, Kami," she whispered. She felt all the strength in her body leave her. She dropped to her knees beside the sword. "This is Naruto-kun's katana. He wouldn't leave it, he'd sooner leave an arm behind." "Hinata," Kiba's voice was now filled with fear. "There's another scent here." She looked up at him fearfully. "It's Itachi's." XXXXXXXXXXX. Kakashi was sitting up in bed reading. He'd accidentally left his radio communicator off and so had missed the frantic messages that had been sent to him. So he was a bit surprised when his hotel door exploded into kindling. Instinctively leapt out of bed and grabbed a kunai. Expecting to see some enemy ninja, he was surprised to instead see a rather upset Hinata with her fist surrounded by chakra. "Hinata, what on earth? Kakashi-sensei, why is your radio off?" she demanded. "Naruto-kun's been kidnapped by Itachi. We have to go after him." "He's been what?" Hinata and Kiba quickly related the events and Hinata held out the katana as physical proof of their words. Kakashi ignored his embarrassment from standing in front of his team in boxers and a t-shirt. He quickly got dressed and wrote out a message on some paper. Summoning technique. In a small puff of smoke, Pakun appeared. "Pakun, we have an emergency." Kakashi wasted no time with idle greetings. "Naruto has been kidnapped by Uchiha Itachi. My team and I will be going after him immediately, but we have no idea how many of the Akatsuki may be involved. Go to the Hokage and tell her we'll need all the backup she can spare us." "All right, got it. And good luck to you." Pakun disappeared. XXXXXXXXXXX. They had been traveling 8 hours and the sun was now well above the horizon. Itachi and Kabuto entered the hidden underground base. Kisame would remain outside as he was no longer a member and so not welcomed. Arriving in the cavernous chamber, they were greeted by the astral projection of their leader. "I see that you have succeeded. I am most pleased." "Yes," Itachi replied as he placed Naruto down in the very center of the stone floor. He then stood there and simply looked down at the motionless form. Kabuto observed his partner with a look of surprise. "If I didn't know any better, I would think you were sad." Itachi sent his partner an icy glance. "You do not know me. Do not make the mistake of thinking that you do." Pain completed a very long series of hand signs. All around them an arcane statue began to rise up out of the ground, like some sort of bizarre tree. A distorted face with 8 closed eyes and 2 hands took shape. Pain leapt up to stand on one of the fingers. "Come, it is time." All around him astral projections of various members began to appear at their appointed places. Itachi and Kabuto leapt up to their positions as well. "Let us commence harvesting the Kyuubi. In 3 days we shall have added his power to our own." XXXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade was asleep with her head on a pile of papers when Pakun arrived with a puff of smoke. "Hokage-sama, I'm awake." Tsunade suddenly sat up. "Pakun, what are you doing here?" The small dog leapt into her desk and pulled out the scroll Kakashi had given him. "There's an emergency, you need to read this." Tsunade took the offered paper and did just that. The message on it was short and to the point. "Oh Kami. Naruto." She pressed the intercom button on her desk. "Shizune, we have an emergency call in Kushina, Guy, Asuma, and their teams. Also I want Captain Tenzo here as fast as possible." "Yes, Lady Tsunade." A startled Shizune answered. "And have an emergency message sent out to Jiraiya that he is to report back to the village immediately." Tsunade let go of the intercom and looked at Pakun. "How long ago did this happen and where?" "It happened about 8 hours ago and it was in Nagamo." "That's 3 days away, damn it. Do you have any more information for me?" "Only that Kakashi and the rest of his team are pursuing them." Tsunade nodded grimly. "All right, get back to Kakashi and I want to be informed the moment you learn more." "Right." Pakun disappeared in a puff of smoke. Tsunade looked out her office window. "I am not going to lose you, Naruto. Not like I lost Dan and Nawaki. I'll save you no matter what, my godson." Chapter 69. "Do you have any idea what this is about?" Asuma asked quietly. "Not a clue," Kushina stated. "But when you're ordered to meet the Hokage immediately, it's never for good news." She looked around the reception area. "And judging by how many Jonin and Chunin we have here, I'm expecting the worst. Yash, whatever it is, we shall master it with the fires of our youth." Kushina shook her head, not really wanting to argue with Guy. Nothing could get that man down. The 3 senseis had gathered together away from their teams to talk for a bit. But unfortunately none of them knew anything. Kushina looked at who had been summoned. Rock Lee and his teammate Tenten were conversing. Despite both being Chunin, they still worked together with Guy. Tenten was wearing more formal clothing than she once had, with a large scroll on her back. She and Neji had become very close according to Hinata. Lee was still a clone of his sensei, even more so now that he wore a Chunin vest. He still spouted about fires of youth, and all that, and he was still as determined as ever to be a great ninja even without chakra. He was however just a bit more serious and a bit more grown up than he had been. Sakura's death had hit him hard. It had taken him about a year to regain his smile. But he would never again be quite the same. Shikamaru was leaning against a wall as he listened to Ino talk and as Choji had some chips. Shikamaru had become Jonin about 6 months ago, and though Yoshino was technically clan head, he seemed to bear most of the burden. Ino and Choji were both Chunin, while Choji had the added pressure of also being clan head. The three of them were no longer an active team, though they did still train and go out together at times. If Team 10 was being reassembled, that was likely a bad sign. It meant a difficult mission was lying ahead and their special abilities might be called on. There was also a group of 4 Anbu standing a bit separately. She recognized their leader as Captain Tenzo. Naruto still called him Yamato, or even sometimes Yamato-sensei. Was the Hokage planning on using a 4-man Anbu squad as well? Finally she looked to her own team. Their team dynamic had always been a bit off. Having 2 girls in love with the same guy tended to do that. But things had gotten worse recently, with Haku and Gabriella barely able to communicate with each other. She had tried to find out the problem, but her efforts had met with failure. XXXXXXXXXX. 3 days ago. Panting and covered in sweat, he rolled off of her. She smiled over at him as they relaxed in the bed. Both of them satisfied, both of them spent. She hated having to sneak off to hotels disguised with henges. But that was still better than having to explain to her father or to sensei what they were doing. She and Haku had been lovers for a while now, and she was not willing to risk these short moments of raw joy. They would sneak off separately and rendezvous at their hotel for an hour or 2. That was all they dared to spend like this. What she really wanted was to spend the night with him. The sex was amazing and ferocious. Haku had been shy at first, but after a while he'd become a real tiger, much to her surprise and pleasure. But she loved him, not just physically but with her whole heart. She wanted to drift off to sleep with his arms wrapped around her. But that of course was impossible. Gabriella. Haku looked over to her. The smile of just a moment ago gone and replaced by a serious look. What are we going to do? She gently caressed his face. Do we have to talk about this right now? We've been avoiding it for a long time, but the problem is not going to go away. Gabriella, I love you and I want you to marry me. She let her hand fall away. I love you too, Haku, and nothing would make me happier. He waited as she paused, knowing what was coming. But would you be willing to join my clan? He sighed. I have already told you I intend to found my own clan. And I have told you I intend to change my clan for the better one day. I can only do that as clan head. As much as I love you, for a ninja sometimes duty must come before all else, even love. She looked at him desperately. Haku, is it really so important for you to found a new clan? Mamashi isn't even your original clan name, is it? Haku shook his head. I never knew what my mother's maiden name was. I have no idea what clan I am descended from. Then Haku, why not just become an Uchiha? He hesitated before giving her his answer. Because I do not want my children born into that clan. She suddenly sat up. What the hell do you mean? She often complained about the problems in her clan, but didn't appreciate hearing criticism from someone outside the family. Even if it was from him. What's wrong with being Uchiha? He sat up as well. Gabriella, I know you would be a wonderful mother, and would love and care for our children. But I know how much you have suffered because of your clan's feelings towards its Kekkei Genkei. I have suffered because of how others viewed my Kekkei Genkei. I do not want my children to endure that as well. I do not want them born into a clan that will only judge them by their bloodline limit. I want my clan to be like the Namikaze, where all family members are loved and accepted regardless of blood or ability. You've never said that before. I didn't want to tell you. But Haku, it won't be like that for our children. I'm going to change the Uchiha and the way we deal with the Sharingan. Our children won't go through what I did. You can't guarantee that, Gabriella. Haku spoke quietly and earnestly. Even if you can change the hearts of your clan members, what if you should be killed one day? It is a possibility we have to consider. You lost your mother, I lost both parents, Naruto lost his father, and Hinata lost her mother. I won't put my children in a clan where they may end up suffering just because of what is in their blood. I will not join the Uchiha clan. Well, I won't abandon my clan. So where the hell does that leave us? XXXXXXXXXXX. The doors to the Hokage's office opened and out came a grim-looking Tsunade followed by an equally worried-looking Shizune. We are badly pressed for time, so I am going to just announce what's going on. She faced Kushina. About 8 hours ago Naruto was captured in the city of Nagamo by Uchiha Itachi. Kushina felt her heart turn to lead and fall into her belly. Naruto's been captured. Her voice was only one among many that cried out upon hearing the news. Tsunade held up her hands and it took a moment for everyone to settle down so she could continue. All right, here is what we know. Naruto has been captured and taken somewhere. According to information given to us by Kisame, it is almost 100% certain he will be brought to an Akatsuki base to have the Kyuubi taken out of him. At this moment Kakashi and the rest of his team are tracking him. The moment they learn his location, Kakashi will send a summons to me to tell me exactly where he is. We're going to get him back. Kushina shouted. Of course we are. Tsunade agreed. That is why all of you are here. I would like to bring every ninja in the village with us, but not even for Naruto can I risk doing that. This is the largest and best force that I can safely spare. I've also sent for Jiraiya, but he is out of the village right now and we can't afford to wait. According to Kisame, it takes 3 days to remove a demon from its host. We have that much time to save him. I'm leading all of you on an S+ rank mission to save the life of Namikaze Naruto. Lady Tsunade, you cannot do that. Shizune protested. Even if it is Naruto, you can't simply leave to go on a mission. Tsunade shook her head. I can and I will. The village will survive fine without me for a short time. You can handle things while I'm gone. If something were to happen to Naruto because I wasn't there, I would never forgive myself. She looked at everyone. Get any supplies you need and make sure you have plenty of soldier pills. We'll meet at the gates in 20 minutes. She went over to Kushina and embraced her. We're getting him back, don't doubt it for a second. Tsunade said. Kushina nodded. She was terrified. This was her worst nightmare come to life. I know we will. I am not losing my son no matter what. XXXXXXXXXXX. Hinata. Stay in formation. Given who we're up against, we can't afford to get sloppy. Kakashi called out. They were flying through the trees with Kiba and Akamaru leading the way. Despite needing to follow Kiba's lead, Hinata was starting to push ahead of him. But we have to hurry. She yelled back. We have to save him. The terror in her voice was plain. We will, Hinata. Kakashi assured her. We're going to save him. But we can't do it if we're spread all over the forest. Stay in. Tight with us, you will get your chance soon enough, believe me. But remember, we will be facing Akatsuki. If you're not focused and sharp, you will die. Do keep that in mind, Hinata. I understand, sensei. She slowed down just a tad to stay in formation. She knew Kakashi was right, of course. But her every instinct demanded she get to Naruto as fast as her body would take her. Hold on, Naruto-kun, we're coming to save you. XXXXXXXXXXX. Pain's astral projection seemed to sigh. We have company approaching. They need to be dealt with. How many of our servants are available? Only 2. Sasori replied. That was all that was available. Pain nodded. Itachi, you and your partner deal with them. I will require you to prevent any interruption. I understand. Itachi replied calmly. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kiba took a deep breath. We've got company coming. Who? Kakashi called out. One of the census Kisamis, the other 2 I don't recognize. Kakashi signaled a halt. They each landed on a separate tree branch. Hinata, what do you see? Nodding, she activated her bloodline. Byakugan. She looked off about 1.5 miles ahead of them. Something strange is going on. I see Kisame and 2 others who look like Itachi and Kabuto, but their images are false. Kiba nodded. Yeah, whatever they look like, the ones ahead of us are not Itachi and Kabuto. That doesn't mean this is going to be easy. Kisame is an S-rank missing nin and the abilities of these other 2 may be unknown, but we have to assume they're extremely dangerous. We'll have to go at them with our full strength. And since that's the case, he lifted his Hitai Ite to reveal his Sharingan. All right, let's go face them. XXXXXXXXXX. In an open clearing, Itachi, Kisame, and Kabuto waited. Kakashi, Hinata, and Kiba riding on Akamaru landed at the other end of the clearing. Itachi nodded to them in a polite manner. That you would risk facing us to try and retrieve Naruto-kun speaks well of your courage, if not your sense of survival. Leave here and do not return, this will be your only warning. Itachi, where is Naruto? What have you done with him? Kakashi asked as Hinata and Kiba carefully got some space to either side. Itachi nodded and both Kabuto and Kisame took a few steps from him. He is nearby meeting his destiny. Rescue is impossible and would only lead to your own deaths. We'll never abandon Naruto-kun. Hinata spat out venomously. Very well. Itachi began casting a jutsu as both Kisame and Kabuto leapt forward. Grand Fireball Technique. A huge boulder of concentrated flame came at Kakashi, who leapt aside to dodge it. XXXXXXXXXXX. A little ways off, Kabuto confronted Hinata. As he took out a kunai, he offered her a friendly smile. It's been a long time, hasn't it, Hinata? I haven't seen you since the start of the Chunin exams. If I may say so, you have grown into a beautiful young woman. With her Byakugan already active, she sent him a cold look. Do you really think your compliments mean anything to me? Now, no need to be hostile. You don't have to die here, you know. Walk away and you can live a nice long life. If you insist on pushing this, you're going to die here today. She dropped into a Juken fighting stance. I love Naruto more than my own life. For him I would gladly die or kill. Kabuto shook his head. Don't you have any dreams? If you die here, your dreams will die with you. Hinata sent him a chill smile. Being with Naruto-kun is my dream. If I lose him, then there is nothing left for me. Well, I see there's no talking to you. Kabuto rushed forward to attack her. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kisame took Samahata off his back and allowed the bandages to fall away. I'm going to shave you to the bone, kid, and your little dog too. Akamaru growled. Shut up, Kiba shouted. He leapt off of Akamaru's back. I know just how dangerous you are, and Akamaru tells me you have huge chakra reserves, so I won't fool around with you. Let me show you an original jutsu my sensei helped me create. He launched himself into the air and began to spin. Lightning Fang. Kisame heard a chirping of birds as the spiral coming at him suddenly lit up. Not good. He leapt away, but Kiba seemed locked in on his scent and continued to close. Kisame got his sword up and used it to block. Kiba's jutsu struck him full force and sent him flying even as he tried to hold his ground. To Kisame's astonishment, as he tried to block the raw force of this attack, he heard a loud crack. His beady little eyes grew as he saw Samahata begin to break underneath its force. XXXXXXXXXXX. Itachi easily dodged the shuriken thrown at him. It is a shame that it comes to this, Kakashi. Given all our years together in the Anbu, you are of the few people I truly respect. Were I a different sort of man, I might consider you a friend. Kakashi nodded. I respect your skills, Itachi, but nothing else. As for friendship, I would never be friends with a traitor or someone who would kill his own father. You are a disgrace to both your village and clan. Itachi frowned. Do not speak to me of my clan. They are fools who do not understand what it means to be truly great. And I suppose you do. Kakashi mocked. In my life I have known only one Uchiha I would call great. And compared to Obito, you're nothing. Itachi shook his head. Such stupid sentimentality. Honestly, Kakashi, after all your years in the Black Ops, I would have expected better from you. Well, I have learned something, Itachi. After Sasuke's little rampage, Ryuki was called to account and forced to reveal information about the Mangekyo Sharingan. Thanks to that information and the pain I feel for Obito's death, I have developed my own version of it. Itachi stared at him. I do not believe you. Only an Uchiha could ever develop a Mangekyo. Beneath his mask, Kakashi smiled. Spoken like any other member of the Uchiha clan. Maybe you're not so different from them after all. Itachi felt the sting of those words. Very well, Kakashi, let us put your words to the test. With that, he activated his Mangekyo. He swiftly drew Kakashi into the colorless world of his own creation. Kakashi was bound to a cross as Itachi stood before him with a sword. Here in the Tsukuyomi dreamscape, I completely control time, space, and even all substance. Within this realm I am truly a god. With no further notice, he drove his sword into Kakashi's guts. I will spend 72 hours torturing you. We have 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds still remaining. To Itachi's surprise, though, Kakashi did not scream or speak a word. Ah, now I see, clever. In the real world, Kakashi's shadow clone disappeared in a puff of smoke. XXXXXXXXXXX. Kabuto had struck her twice with his chakra scalpel. The hits were non-lethal but they slowed her down some. You haven't managed to hit me once with your gentle fist. I was expecting better from you. Hinata grinned. I was being sloppy on purpose to draw you in. Now you are in range of my 8 trigrams. She snapped down again into the Jukin stance. Gentle fist. 8 trigrams 64 palms. With that she launched her clan's ultimate fighting move with a speed and power that Kabuto could not hope to match. Not only did every strike shut down on of his chakra points but she had an added touch all her own. She focused just a tiny bit of chakra into the end of her fingers. The result was that along with cutting off his chakra flow she also delivered a physical beating. Making her, gentle, fist rather hard. Her 64th and final strike sent him flying into a tree. She now stood over a beaten enemy who could no longer use chakra. It's over, she declared. Now you're going to tell me exactly where Naruto is and how we can save him. Kabuto smiled and quickly tossed a pill down his throat. He gave her a respectful nod. This fight is over, I look forward to the next one. Almost as soon as he'd said that his body began to spasm and shake. Her Byakugan showed her his heart had stopped. She hurried to his side to try and revive him but the poison was too effective. With the poor man's death his true identity was revealed. He was just a stranger looking up at her with dead eyes. Whether the man had served willingly or been controlled she would never know. She gently closed his eyes and got moving to help her teammates. XXXXXXXXXX. Water Dragon Missile. A huge column of water rose out of a nearby pond and struck Kiba sending him flying. You broke my sword. I'll kill you for that. I'm going to tear you apart and feed your arms and legs to my sharks while you watch. Kiba caught his breath and he was slammed into a tree. Hey, it's just a sword. Would it help if I promised to buy you a new one? Her heard Kisame scream in rage. I guess not. Akamaru was at his side as he cast a jutsu. Hidden mist technique. Kisame continued moving towards Kiba's general direction. The only thought in his head that he would kill the wretched boy for what he had done. He was still focusing on how exactly he would tear him apart when he ran into a gigantic two-headed dog. To his horror the huge dog did the most terrible thing imaginable. He lifted a hind leg and sent a stream of burning urine down on him. Kisame screamed as the urine burned like acid and he was forced to shut his eyes. The huge dog began to spin and was able to hit him full force and drive him into the earth. XXXXXXXXXXX. From his hiding spot Kakashi activated his Mangekyo and used its full power. Directly behind the motionless Itachi the air seemed to turn black as a portal to another dimension opened. Before Itachi could even exit the effects of his own jutsu he was pulled into the other dimension. The only sign of him left behind was a single sandal. XXXXXXXXXXX. Regrouping Kakashi was pleased to see a beaten and unconscious Kisame tied up and on Akamaru's back. Kakashi was glad to hear that both his teammates were relatively unhurt. He however was feeling the strain of having used the Mangekyo. Hinata was examining him with a worried look. Will I live? Kakashi teased. Of course you will. Hinata said. I was kidding Hinata. Kakashi apologized. Kakashi-sensei this is no time for jokes. You're suffering from chakra exhaustion. To be honest I'm amazed you can still stand. My guess is you'll need at least a couple weeks rest to recover. She looked very worried. There is no way you can fight anymore. Kakashi nodded sheepishly. I shouldn't have used it, especially not when it wasn't the real Itachi. But I didn't think it would wipe me out like this. He let out a sigh. We'll have to retreat for now and wait for reinforcement from Konoha. No, Hinata said. Kakashi-sensei you rest here. Kiba-kun and I will go ahead with the rescue. No you will not, Kakashi said sharply. Hinata with me incapacitated this team is no longer strong enough to have any chance of rescuing Naruto. Especially not since they obviously know we're here. The real Itachi and Kabuto are still out there waiting, not to mention however many more Akatsuki. Pushing forward would only lead to your deaths. So you want us to do nothing and let them just kill Naruto-kun? She demanded. Hinata, I have read up on all the files concerning Akatsuki. The ceremony to remove the Kyuubi will take 3 full days. We have that much time to save him. Within that time the reinforcements from Konoha will be here and we will fight alongside them. Right now our course of action is to withdraw and then get all the information we can from Kisame before we eliminate him. Eliminate him? Hinata asked. Kakashi nodded firmly. He has a kill-on-sight order signed by the Hokage. Besides which, with me incapacitated, it would be far too dangerous to try and keep him prisoner. We will get all the information we can from him before we carry out the order." Hinata wanted to argue but didn't. If it helped save Naruto, she was ready to do anything. She looked off to the west, the direction they'd been heading. "Please hold, Naruto-kun, hold on just a little bit longer." XXXXXXXXXXX. That was a most interesting encounter, Itachi said as both he and Kabuto stood. Even though their opponents had only 30% of our chakra, they did quite well. Not to mention that they succeeded in capturing Kisame. "Speaking of your blue-skinned pal, what do you want to do about him?" Kabuto asked. "Nothing," Itachi replied simply. Kabuto looked surprised. "You're going to abandon him? I thought he was a friend of yours. I told you before that you did not know me. I have no friends, they are nothing but a detriment. While it is true I did somewhat enjoy Kisame's company, I rescued him previously for my own reasons. Likewise, I abandon him now for my own reasons. Let us return to the ceremony." With that, the two of them headed back to base, their mission accomplished. Chapter 70. She couldn't sleep. She looked at her watch again. A whole 2 minutes had passed. It had been 2 full days since Naruto had been captured. Now it was only a question of hours. Kisame had given them valuable information on what was going on and on the layout of the Akatsuki base. After which Kakashi had dispatched him quickly and cleanly. Pakun had then gone out to confirm the location of the base. With that done, Kakashi had written up a report with everything they knew and sent Pakun to the Hokage. Now they had to wait. She checked her watch again, 2 more minutes had passed. "Hinata-chan, you should be resting." A worried Kiba spoke. Beneath him Akamaru whimpered in concern. "I can't sleep," she said simply. Kiba was facing an odd role reversal. Usually he was the impetuous one and Hinata was the voice of reason. But she had been the one wanting to go out alone if necessary, while he'd had to convince her the best chance was to wait. "It won't be long now. They'll be here before dawn and then we'll all go kick some ass and save him." He chuckled. "Then you can call him a baka for letting himself get captured in the first place." "I won't yell at him," she said quietly. "I'm just going to hold him and never ever let him go again." He could see how depressed she was. She'd been this way since they'd arrived at this little village about 10 miles from where they'd fought. He decided to try and change the subject. "How is Sensei doing? I checked on him about an hour ago. He's resting comfortably. There's really nothing I can do about chakra exhaustion, he just needs time to recover." She sighed. "He'll have to stay here when we go." Kiba nodded. They had already talked about this. "I'll summon his nin dogs and they'll protect him while we're gone." She just nodded. "Hinata-chan, he's going to be alright. You'll see, by this time tomorrow. He'll probably be complaining that he could have escaped on his own. I know he's alright. He had to be." She refused to acknowledge any other possibility. "We'll save him and everything will be just fine." She looked at her watch and prayed for this horrible wait to end. XXXXXXXXXXX. Even using soldier pills, the body still needed some rest. The Hokage had called for a 4-hour halt to give everyone a chance to rest and eat. Having received the exact location of the hidden base from Kakashi, they would be there before dawn. Then they would show the Akatsuki what hell was. And they would get her boy back. "You should be resting," a familiar voice called to her. "So should you, Tsunade." Kushina didn't bother to turn around. She kept her eyes on the southern horizon. "Well, I have to make sure everything and everyone is all right before I can rest," Tsunade said. "What's your excuse?" she teased. "That I'm his mother and I can't stop thinking about what my poor baby is suffering right now." An uncomfortable silence fell between them for a moment. "He's going to be all right, you know," Tsunade said gently. "Naruto is strong, he'll be fine." "I know," Kushina answered and stared hard out into the darkened landscape. XXXXXXXXXXX. There was no pain. He just seemed to exist. There was just light. He looked down at his hands. "Whose hands are these? Oh, that's right, they're mine, aren't they?" As he watched, scenes from his life began to play out before him. A little 3 or 4-year-old Naruto fell and began to cry. His mother picked him up and consoled him. She began to rock him back and forth in her arms and soon he was smiling, the tears forgotten. A slightly older Naruto was playing with an equally young and innocent Hinata. There he was lying on the floor and listening as his Nisan told him a story about his dad. His godmother and his Aunt Shizune were smothering him with kisses. Pervy Granddad stood there proudly as Naruto signed the frog summoning contract. He was laughing as Shikamaru, Choji, and Kiba all chased after Gamakichi again. He thanked Ino for bringing all those beautiful flowers to him in his hospital room and for cheering him up. He laughed as Lee jumped about excitedly after finally finishing the full 10-hour workout. Haku reached out and took his hand, becoming a friend. He saw a happy Alyssa asking to braid his hair. He sat in a rowboat and listened to stories as he and his granduncle fished. I was loved and needed by a lot of people. I was blessed. It really was a good life. I don't want to leave them. He felt a hand on his shoulder. I am very proud of you, my son. He looked to see a face that was familiar only from pictures in the monument. Dad, is it really you? He gave him a wide smile. Real enough, son. Naruto reached out and hugged him and found that his arms could really touch him. Dad, I missed you. Naruto could feel his father's arms drape around him comfortingly. I missed you too, son. I love you, Naruto, and I hope you can forgive me for what I did to you. I love you too, Dad. Naruto choked the words out. And of course I forgive you. You were the Hokage, it was your duty to protect Konoha. I know why you chose me and I understand it. I never wanted to leave you, son, or your mother. I loved you both more than anything in the world. I am so sorry that you had to suffer for what I did. I wanted them to see you as a hero. I know that, Dad. He looked up at his father questioningly. Have I died? Is this the afterlife? No, son, this is a place between life and death. Am I about to die then? He frowned. I don't want to leave the people I love, especially Mom and Hinata-chan. I know, son, but it is not your choice. I cannot see what is going to happen. You may live or you may die. If you pass on, son, I will be there to guide you along the path. If you live, there is something very important you must know. What? A secret? Listen closely as I tell it to you and burn the words into your mind or they will be lost. Naruto listened carefully to his father's words and did his best to sear them into memory. XXXXXXXXXX. Finally, Hinata saw them. Coming in the pre-dawn. She, Kiba, and Akamaru were at the rendezvous point. As they stood there, the reinforcements they had been waiting for had finally arrived. Hinata, Kiba, are you both ready to lead us to the base? Tsunade was wasting no time. She and everyone with her had rested for a grand total of 8 hours in the last 3 days. But thanks to the soldier pills they all had plenty energy for what lay ahead. Kiba nodded. We can take you straight there. Tsunade frowned. Since only the two of you are here, I guess Kakashi really is incapacitated. I am very sorry, Tsunade-sensei. Hinata spoke up. He is suffering from chakra exhaustion and there was nothing I could do. I know, I suppose I was just hoping for a miracle. All right, she turned to everyone in her group. You all know what we're up against and what is at stake. Fight to the full limit of your abilities and be ready to kill. Anything less and you won't survive. Now let's get Naruto. XXXXXXXXXX. The leader of the Akatsuki looked down on the suspended form of the Kyuubi's container. Like molasses, the chakra slowly oozed out of the Jinchuriki's mouth and eyes and was absorbed into the statue. The astral form frowned with displeasure. It seems we are to be interrupted yet again, and this time by a larger force. It is fortunate that Sasori and Deidara are also present now. Sasori, Deidara, Itachi, and Kabuto, as you are the only ones physically in attendance, you shall have to deal with them. You need only delay them for a short time, we are nearly done here. XXXXXXXXXXX. Byakugan. They were within 2 miles of the enemy base, so Hinata was using her bloodline to take a look. She and Kiba had not been able to get this close before. What do you see? A worried Kushina asked. I see 4 ninjas waiting outside the base. I recognize them from our mission to Torike. We have Itachi, Kabuto, Sasori, and Deidara. I don't know Sasori's powers, but Deidara can make explosives from clay. He can make them fly with great speed and accuracy and can make clay models large enough for him to fly on as well. Hinata said. Just how powerful are his explosives? Tsunade asked. I saw him destroy whole buildings. Hinata said. Kiba nodded in vigorous support. Can you see Naruto? Tsunade asked. She hesitated. Yes, but not clearly. He's within the base in a lower level. There's some weird statue there. He's being drained of his chakra. She looked frightened. I can't be sure, but I don't think he has much time left. Then I guess we'll just have to do this fast and hard. Tsunade grimaced. XXXXXXXXXXX. They are coming straight at us with no attempt at diversion or surprise. Itachi said calmly. They are very brave. Kabuto said. They are very stupid. Sasori commented gruffly as he pulled out a scroll. Deidara laughed as he created a clay bird large enough to ride on. Yeah, maybe they're just brave and stupid. He leapt on. No, Itachi stated. They are desperate and know they have little time left. Yeah, well, it's fine with me. He lifted into the air. I'll show them all that my art is a real bang. Just remember not to blow us up along with them. Sasori called out. Deidara's only reply was a happy laugh. Sasori muttered something about being a child. Kabuto smiled and looked to his stoic partner. You worried at all? No, this should be quite an interesting fight. XXXXXXXXXXX. As they approached the base, they all saw Deidara dive down at them. Out of his hands fell half a dozen miniature clay birds. With a poof they became life-size and sped downwards. Look out! Hinata screamed. They're explosives. The leaf nins all dodged out of the way as 6 explosions detonated around them. None of them were killed or even hurt. But an attack that had begun with a minimum of preparation was thrown into complete chaos as they were forced apart into groups. XXXXXXXXXXX. Bah! This is going to be too easy. Like lambs to the slaughter. He activated his scroll and 100 puppets suddenly came into existence. I hope some of them will at least make interesting additions to my collection. Have a care, Sasori, some of them might surprise you. Itachi flickered away. He knew exactly who he wanted to fight. XXXXXXXXXXX. We're fighting puppets. Man, this is troublesome. Shikamaru was forced to doge the large side of a puppet made to look like a reaper. My shadow jutsus don't work on puppets. Ino was desperately throwing kunai to no effect. Same for my mind and medical jutsus. Body expansion technique. Choji's form became 30 feet tall. Pulling out a metal cudgel he smashed the reaper puppet to kindling. Well, my muscle works fine. Asuma focused his chakra into his trench knives and took another puppet apart. Shikamaru and Ino stay close to me and Choji until we've dealt with these puppets. Ino hated feeling useless. She looked up and smiled. Shikamaru, take care of my body. What? Ino brought her fingers together into a square in front of her face. Mind transfer technique. XXXXXXXXXX. Tsunade brought her fist into a puppet and smashed it as she kept running forward. Kabuto, you traitor. Kabuto smiled even as he leapt back. Unlike some others, his ego was not stronger than his intelligence. He had no desire to face Tsunade in an open fight. Hello Tsunade-sensei, nice to see you again. Don't call me that, you traitor. Kabuto chuckled. Actually, I don't consider myself a traitor at all. I was always loyal, just not to you or Konoha. Come here. She smashed the ground with a kick, forcing Kabuto to leap. She leapt after him, determined to get some payback for his crimes. XXXXXXXXXXX. Yosh. Now this is truly a workout. Fighting these puppets is much better than using simple training posts. Guy had already opened the first gate and had given himself enough raw power to break the puppets that got near to him. There's a difference, sensei. Tenten called out. Training posts aren't trying to kill you. Though she preferred to use thrown weapons, she could also fight effectively with a sword as she was doing now. That is what is making this such an excellent workout. When we return to Konoha, I will see about purchasing some puppets for our regular training sessions. Guy spoke enthusiastically as he continued to smash the things with his fists and feet. Guy was suddenly forced to dodge as a huge metal tail tried to skewer him. You are beginning to annoy me. The blocky Sasori called out. Guy sent his opponent a dazzling smile and a thumbs up. Yosh, those who lack the fires of youth often feel that way. Along with most people. Tenten muttered to herself. Sasori was suddenly surrounded by a green whirlwind. What is this? Guy-sensei. Lee called out. I will deal with our enemy. Out of the whirlwind, Lee delivered a kick with enough power to send even the heavy and bulky puppet body high into the air. Lee then launched himself. Imagining himself to be no more than the shadow of a leaf, he took position behind Sasori and wrapped his bandages around him. Primary Lotus. With terrifying speed and power, Sasori was driven down into the hard earth. XXXXXXXXXX. Rotation. Hinata spun, forcing chakra out as a shield and sending a number of poisoned kunai and blades flying away. She leapt out and readied to fight some more. She was very glad that Tsunade had taught her how to concentrate chakra in her fists. Otherwise her gentle fist would have been useless. Kiba and Akamaru were at her side panting. There are a whole lot of these damn puppets, Kiba complained. It doesn't matter how many there are. I would fight 1,000,000 of them if I had to. She spotted something. Dodge. She and Kiba leapt away just in time to avoid an explosion from a clay bird. XXXXXXXXXXX. Deidara laughed, enjoying himself. He looked down at the scene of battle. Yeah, such complete and total chaos. Now that is good art. His hands were chewing clay as he wanted to make more art when his body suddenly stiffened. Deidara came out of it and spoke in a slightly more girlish voice. Which was really saying something. All right, mind transfer was a success. Now I just need to, eek. Looking down from the back of the clay bird, Ino suddenly learned something about herself that she had never suspected. She was afraid of heights. She quickly went from standing to lying on her stomach, clutching around the neck of her bird. XXXXXXXXXXX. What is that troublesome girl doing? Shikamaru asked. Deidara had stopped circling overhead and was now flying somewhat erratically away. She just might be having trouble controlling his ability. Asuma pointed out as he continued to fight. If she has taken one of the Akatsuki out of the fight, then she has done her job. Protect her body, Shikamaru. Choji said, worry obvious in his voice as he looked down on his unconscious girlfriend. Sensei and I will cover you. XXXXXXXXXXX. Haku tried desperately to stay by Kushina-sama's side, but a pair of puppets cut him off. Senbons were useless against them. They sent some kunai flying towards him. He blocked them by raising an 8-foot wall of ice in front of him. In the past few years he had worked hard and greatly expanded the power of his Kekkei Genkei. Tayuya landed by his side playing her flute. Around them her 3 doki moved and blocked the attacks of other puppets while smashing one that got too close. We have to get to Kushina-sama. Haku called to her. Tayuya nodded as she continued to play her flute and maintained control of her doki as some more puppets pressed the attack. For the moment they could only watch. XXXXXXXXXX. You have my personal sympathies, Kushina. I truly regret the fate that was assigned to Naruto-kun. Seeing Itachi and hearing those words filled her with an absolutely murderous rage. You bastard! How dare you say that to me? With her katana she went after him. I'm going to kill you. Coming straight at him in a blind rage, Itachi had no trouble at all catching her line of sight and drawing her into Tsukuyomi. Kushina suddenly found herself standing on an endless colorless plain. What is this? A genjutsu? She brought her palms together. Kai. Her attempt to dispel had no effect. Here in the Tsukuyomi dreamscape I completely control time, space, and even all substance. Within this realm I am truly a god. A disembodied ethereal voice seemed to speak from everywhere and nowhere. Damn you, Itachi, show yourself. Kushina growled. I know that you do not believe me. However, the fact is that I deeply respect Naruto-kun. If it had been my choice I would have given him the chance to face me alone in battle. He could have died a swift and honorable death at my hands. A death worthy of a great shinobi. Unfortunately, my loyalty is to Akatsuki and it is the will of my organization that he meet a different end. Why are you telling me this? Do you think it will make any difference to me? Do you think it will make me want to kill you any less? Kushina demanded. No, I simply wanted to tell you the truth and offer you my condolences. I also wanted to give you the chance to mourn your loss. At her feet the lifeless body of her son suddenly came into being. I shall allow you to mourn him for 72 hours. Itachi, you bastard, she whispered. This isn't real. I refuse to believe this is real. My son is alive and well and I am going to see him again. She looked about. Itachi was nowhere to be seen. Show yourself, you coward, she screamed. There was no answer. Only silence. She looked down at the unmoving body of her son. She turned away. This is an illusion and I won't believe no matter how long I am here. XXXXXXXXXXX. Gabriella watched her beloved sensei freeze and understood immediately what had happened. Itachi. With her own Sharingan active she came at him. Spitfire technique. Itachi dodged away from the stream of fire effortlessly. Hello little cousin, it is nice to see you again. Congratulations on replacing my foolish little brother as clan heir. Itachi, you have no idea how much it shames me to have to admit that you are family. Ah Gabriella, have you listened to everyone's opinion of me? I had hoped you might be strong enough to think for yourself. She looked at him in shock. Think for myself. What do you think? I wouldn't hate you if it weren't for others. You killed your own father, you poisoned Sasuke somehow, and you betrayed everyone who trusted you. She readied her sword. Trust me cousin, I don't need any help to hate you. Kushina suddenly fell to one knee. Gabriella looked over to her. Sensei, are you alright? Panting, Kushina lifted her head. Though tears were flowing, she focused on Itachi, who could feel her killer intent rising and rising. Your mind was not broken. I am truly impressed, Kushina. I showed Naruto an image of me killing you over and over again for 72 hours and it completely destroyed him. Obviously your attachment to him is not as strong as his to you. Kushina slowly got back up to her feet and readied her sword. What could a heartless monster like you ever know about the love a mother has for her child? For what you did to me and for what you did to him, I will kill you now. She went forward, determined to end his life once and for all. XXXXXXXXXXX. As the desperate battle raged outside, within the base all was quiet and calm. Pain simply nodded as the final bit of the chakra was withdrawn from the Jinchuriki. With the process at last complete, the empty husk was allowed to fall to the stone floor. The body was now but an empty and discarded container. We are done now, Pain informed them. Thank you for watching. Please remember, make sure to like and subscribe, and if you have fanfictions you would like to see on the channel, leave them in the comments, and have a great day.